Friday, July the 10th, 2020. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of That's What G Said podcast. Going to be horse racing heavy, but we're going to kick things off with the NBA preview with Erik. We're going to go to the Western Conference now. If you missed it last week, you can go back and listen to it on one of last week's episodes. We covered the Eastern Conference teams, the 9 teams coming back to the NBA bubble from the East. This week, we're going to talk the 13 teams that are coming back in the West. We go through each team, what they're going to be playing for, what their chances will be in the playoffs, matchups, all sorts of things like that. So, a nice NBA discussion. Then we're going to talk some Friday Keeneland as they roll along in this little short Keeneland meeting that is just awesome, real quality racing. Guess what opens up on Friday? Del Mar. We're going to talk some Friday Del Mar. Friday Pleasanton. We hit the late pick 4 with Andrew Champagne, so we talk about the Pleasanton late pick 4. Friday Stable Duel. We'll let you know what's going on with the Stable Duel contest for Friday, and then we'll go through a Keeneland lineup that we've built. Saturday racing from Keeneland, from Del Mar, a Pleasanton late pick 5, and then we tell you what's going on with Stable Duel on Saturday. Loaded. Tons. That's what we like here. We like to cover a bunch of different topics, a bunch of different races, a bunch of different sports, a bunch of different games. Before we get into the NBA discussion with Erik, I want to mention some of the sponsors on That's What G Said. We are very, very lucky to have had some awesome sponsors from the very beginning, and that's why I'm able to keep this going. That's why I'm able to do this, produce a show that's free. The best way, if you ever want to support That's What G Said, is to support the sponsors, the folks that help us keep this going. So right now, that's Stable Duel Fantasy Horse Racing. You're going to hear me talk all about that. The games are open now. If you're interested, you can flip to a little later on in the show where we go through how to build a lineup. This is daily fantasy horse racing. This is something that's really a brand new concept and something that we haven't quite seen before. So give it a look. Give them some support. If you're looking to a racetrack to play the races, we're going to talk some Pleasanton racing here on That's What G Said. Friday, Saturday, Sunday racing up in Northern California. Is Thrive Fantasy is a daily fantasy prop betting app. You can download that app, and when you use a promo code GINO, you deposit $10, you'll get an instant $10 bonus. From the very beginning, it's been full service realtor Cindy Carava, cindycarava.com for all of your real estate needs. Over at oldsmokeclothing.com, if you're a horse racing fan, you want to get in some nice horse racing t-shirts, hats, any swag, maybe a gift for one of your friends that loves it, use the promo code GINO, and you'll get free shipping. And then Sarah Candle Company, those all-natural soy wax candles, use that promo code GINO. It'll get you 10% off your purchase. You're going to hear more about all of these sponsors throughout the show, but we just want to let you know about all of them. So if you ever need anything in any of these fields, if you're interested in fantasy, in the horse racing, or in the sports world, Thrive, looking for a track to play, why not Pleasanton? We'll cover that one right here. And if you need some help in the field of real estate, Cindy Carava, some swag at Old Smoke, and then keep that house smelling fresh with Sarah Candle Company. Let's get into the NBA. We're going to talk Western Conference. We preview each team with Erik, Etoft Sports Online. Thoughts on all 13 teams in the West. Enjoy. Part 2 of our NBA preview, I guess our NBA return preview with Etoft 21 Sports, good buddy Erik, who comes on the show and talks with us all sorts of different things. Erik, thanks for talking about the East with us last week. Now we'll do part 2. We'll talk about the Western Conference. How things going for you, buddy?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, so we're finding out now in just the week that we talked about the Eastern Conference, we're actually finding out a couple really key defections. I know Bradley Beal for the Wizards, a team that you and I thought actually could have the opportunity to sneak back in and at least get into a play-in situation for the 8th seed, because we're really not high on Brooklyn, and they're not able to field really a very competitive team, it looks like, with some of the issues they've had. But with no Bradley Beal, that's going to make things difficult for Washington. And then no Victor Oladipo, that's going to put the Pacers in a spot where they're not going to be maybe as tough of a matchup for other teams that we might have projected with a healthy Oladipo.
I mean, I think the Pacers are done now, and personally, it's one of those things, like, I understand because of what happened from Isaiah Thomas from the Celtics, how he, his sister died. He went out there, gave it his all, got his hip, and he got that hip injury, and he was in line for that $100 million contract.
Yep.
And now, I mean, he's not even on a team right now.
No.
Because he got traded from the Wizards to the Clippers. So I get
Cousins
it,
had happened to with Boogie Cousins a few years ago, too. He had it bad, I think twice, multiple times it happened with him.
And I mean, like, the peak earnings years for these athletes are just so small. I mean, I totally get it, but Oladipo's going down there, which I find really weird. And if I was on the Pacers and this guy's lighting me up in practice and then doesn't even go to the games, just goes back to the hotel, that would really rub me the wrong way.
It's weird that he's there. I agree with you. If he's going to be taking the approach where, hey, I can do more for my rehab, for my body, for everything by not playing, that's fine. Then be doing your rehab and doing all that stuff on your own. I agree with you. It's just we forget that these guys are humans. That just adds a weird dynamic to your team in practice. It doesn't feel like everything's going to be positive. And a lot of times we worry about, an X factor like team chemistry. That seems weird. I think that's a great point that you mentioned.
It kind of leads me to think that, there's all these rumors about Miami making a push for him. Maybe, because he is a local kid, went to Indiana. Maybe there is some truth to him leaving once the contract expires.
Yeah. Maybe he's already kind of there in his head.
And I mean, the whole thing with Beal and the shoulder injury, like,
we didn't hear anything about this.
I mean, I get it, but I just don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So at least a few big name players over the last week or so have opted out. Those are the players in the East. We're going to get to the Western Conference now. We're going to go top to bottom in the West, and we'll talk about the 13 teams that are going to be reconvening in the bubble in the West. So we start out with the number 1 seed in the West, Erik, the Lakers, 49-14. And with the Lakers, they're in a pretty good spot because they're actually only going to be playing, I think, a total of 71 games when it's all said and done. They return. They play the Clippers right away, Toronto, Utah, Oklahoma City, Houston, Indiana, Denver, and Sacramento. But what's nice for the Lakers is they've got themselves a 5.5 game lead over the Clippers for the 2 seed. And for them, it's probably going to be, hey, maybe let's get LeBron and Davis out here 4 or 5 times, get everybody back into shape. They don't really – I would be surprised if those guys are playing every game a whole ton.
Yeah, I mean, they're in the same spot that the Bucks were in. I mean, they have such a big lead. They're locked in. The big question for me is who replaces Bradley.
Yep.
And he was playing at such a high level, and he was
the best basketball
guy
all year right before he got hurt. He was shooting an insane clip from 3. His defense was excellent, both sides of the court. He was really, really starting to come into his own.
And he was a forgotten guy, and LeBron seeked him out because LeBron wanted him there. And that's the one out of all the guys surprised me the most of opting not to play after what LeBron did for him and giving him this chance. Howard playing is huge for the Lakers. It gives them a great defensive front court. They were 3rd in away road defense efficiency this year. That's huge. They play their best basketball, though, when AD is, statistic-wise, at the 5.
Yep.
When Morris and Morris is at the 4. Does Smith leap Waiters, though, in the pecking order, do you think? Because they just signed him. He's played with LeBron. He's familiar with LeBron. I'm not really a Deion Waiters guy. I think Smith leaps Waiters. What do you think?
The key is it can't be Rondo. Rondo cannot be the one filling in. And Rondo's point on this Lakers team has to only be he's on the court with the second unit when LeBron needs a rest. That's the reason why Rondo should be on this team. He can't play defense anymore. He can't shoot. He doesn't really stretch the field. He can handle the ball and set things up for the few minutes LeBron needs a respite. When LeBron's on the court, I think Caruso is the best in-house option. I really do. And I'm hoping that now Vogel is going to lean on Caruso a little bit more, someone who he started to close games with, someone who plays very well off of LeBron. And what he does when Caruso's in, he gives them the opportunity and the option, just like you said, to go it's nice when the Lakers can go small and you have Davis at the 5. That's what small is for them. They'll have Davis at the 5, like you said, maybe a Morris or maybe a Kuzma. Then you got LeBron in the mix. You can have Caruso and KCP as maybe 2 in there. Maybe you want to bring in a JR or a Waiters to give you a little more scoring punch. I think that they'll both get an opportunity to get a little run off the bench with the second unit and maybe try to heat things up. I still think JR is just more of a I don't know if either one of them two is going to jump KCP and Caruso is my thinking, though. And I agree with you in that it wouldn't surprise me if JR jumps Waiters. I just don't know if either one of them is going to be closing a game unless it's a game where they hit 3 or 4 threes in a row. Maybe they're hot and they're on the court to close. I'm still thinking with no Bradley now, it's going to be more KCP and a little bit more Caruso.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I remember the Piston days because I grew up in Michigan, so I'm a Piston fan, and I'm a huge KCP guy. It's just he just hasn't taken that step.
No, you're right.
And you know what I mean? Like, I just don't, because I know LeBron's a big trust guy. Like, is LeBron going to want Smith out there? I completely agree with you.
It's a great point.
I completely agree with you with the Rondo. I don't think Rondo gets enough credit for those Celtics teams when he has the ball, but there's no way he can play with LeBron because LeBron's going to have the ball, and it's either going to be an ISO and a pick and roll with Davis, and you can completely sink off Rondo and just dare him to shoot. So, I mean, I totally understand that point. I really think Vogel's done a real underrated job coaching this year.
I agree. He really has.
I mean, there's been no LeBron drama, and he's really done a good job of bringing assistants in and just kind of delegating and him focusing on what he does best. I really think actually the thing that's going to hurt them the most if it gets to this point is Los Angeles right now and probably forever is always going to be a Laker town. And them not having the conference finals every single game in Staples, or even if it's technically a Clippers home game,
it would have been like a Lakers
home game.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's a really big factor that is lost in all this.
I agree. They and Milwaukee both, and there were teams that were both fine on the road, but they did lose a lot of that built-in advantage that they had from playing hard, from playing every night throughout the year, getting the opportunity to have everything have to go through you in your home building, and that won't be the case for this Laker team. I'm still pretty confident in them, and I guess we'll move from the Lakers, the 1 seed, to the 2 seed, the Clippers. I think the key with both of these two teams is we talk about, LeBron and Anthony Davis. We talk about Kawhi and Paul George. These teams are good. They have a little bit more depth than I think people wanted to give them credit for. The Lakers, the Clippers have very good depth, and a lot of people recognize that. But I think this is all going to come down to who's ready to go. If one of these big 4 players isn't playing at a high level, I think that team is in some big trouble. If Paul George or Kawhi comes back and they've got something that's flared up, or if Anthony Davis gets hurt right away and it's just LeBron trying to carry, the Lakers aren't going to be in great shape. So as much as these two teams feel like they are the top 2 in the West and head and shoulders above, they're one small turned ankle away in a bubble situation like this from maybe getting eliminated.
And I mean, I don't know if you heard, but Kawhi didn't travel.
Yes.
Down to Orlando. So They said it was a quote-unquote family matter. Does that mean he has the COVID-19? You know what I mean? Like,
we start to speculate now.
Yeah, you start to think, like, why isn't he traveling? And you hit it on the head. This team, I think they have the most depth. But I read that Lou Williams, he's still 50-50 if he's going to actually play or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Patrick Beverley is the same thing with Rondo. If Patrick Beverley's on the court in the last 5 minutes, I'm just going to dare him to shoot. I'm going to completely sag off of him.
You make him beat
double.
You.
Exactly. And I was looking at stats. Paul George this year is 6 for 42 in taking shots with 4 seconds or less on the shot clock. I mean, that is really bad. Like, historically bad for a player who's looked upon as like top 20 player in the NBA, top 15, top 10, however you look at him. And he's 29% shooting in ISO and 38% this year from Kawhi on passes from Leonard. And I mean, I've never really been a Paul George guy. And I don't know if you remember, he used to date Doc Rivers' daughter.
Yes.
And then he had the affair and got the stripper pregnant. And then there was a whole thing when he was with the Pacers and with, like, he hooked up with, like, Roy Hibbert's wife.
Yep.
Like, when they were having those runs. So is he, you know what I mean? Like,
and
Paul
he loved the Lakers. He wanted to come to the Lakers forever. And then then he signs with OKC. He loves Westbrook. That's his best friend. And then we hear that he's always really secretly been a Clippers fan. You know what? He just seems like he's got, it's like, come on, man.
I just don't trust the guy. Like, and they got Reggie Jackson, another guy from my Pistons, but Reggie's a little bit of an ego guy too, because he got upset when he came in, had those good, he had like a good 10-game stretch with the Thunder behind Westbrook when Westbrook was hurt. And then, like, he went to Detroit and it never really worked out, never really blossomed. He's not a great shooter. You can completely dare him to be with a shot. For as many weapons as they have, I could easily see the Clippers losing to the Mavericks if that's the first
100%. That's a matchup they do not want to have, because Luka is the type of guy who can carry you. Dallas's overall, their record, where they stand, it's a little deceiving because they've had some injuries. They're very, very good when they have Luka and Porzingis on the court. If those two are healthy, they're more like a top 4 team in the West and not like a 6 or 7 team in the West. I agree with you. I think both of those two teams are probably trying to avoid each other.
And we also didn't even talk how Landry has he tested positive for COVID.
He's a big part of that.
We don't know
a big 3-and-D piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's another one of those just quiet, unsung heroes who fits so well for them because he doesn't need the ball. He'll do exactly what you need. He'll stand in the corner, hit his open threes, very good shooter. I'm with you. The more for them, the more Morris, the more Jackson. It's nice to have them as options, but the more you have to count on them, I don't think it's a positive for the Clippers. You would. Yeah. Go ahead.
You want them like 10 minutes you want 10 to 20 minutes. You don't want them last 5 minutes on the game. You don't want them on the court.
You want them on the court then because they had a great game and they're there. You don't want to have them because you don't have any other options because Kawhi got hurt. Paul George is still a little banged up. Shamit, we don't know what's going on with him. So yeah, that's when their depth, which is one of their strengths, if you don't have someone like Shamit around or if PG or Kawhi isn't 100%, then that's where that depth is really going to get challenged, and we'll see how much that depth can come into to fruition for them. Let's get to the 3 seed, the Denver Nuggets. I mean, one of the things we have to talk about was that Jokic had the coronavirus. Apparently, he lost a ton of weight in the last few months off. He has tested negative now multiple times, and he is on the way back, I believe, just getting ready to meet with them in Orlando. He wasn't there immediately. He had a few issues with some of his travel, but for them, it's all going to come down to what version of him are we going to get? Are we going to get the guy that in the playoffs last year was one of the best players in basketball, carried them and almost carried them to an NBA final when they were they had the opportunity to get through a Portland team and get to a conference final at the very least? If we get the Jokic who was a little chubby to start the season, was a little lazy, didn't really look like he was in the best of shape physically, that guy, this Denver team is just a team. With the actual Jokic, then this is a team who can absolutely, win a series or two and maybe make a run.
I was really high on this team. This is one of the teams I took a future on back at the season. And I don't really know how much the weight loss is going to affect Joker's physicality in the lane. Is he going to be able to have Dwight Howard bang on him and do it and getting the rebounds, being physical? And back to Dwight Howard, we forget how good Dwight Howard actually is because of those 5 years. And that's a huge matchup. They need him to be physical in the lane, and they needed him to be able to rebound and be a presence, especially to play a team like the Rockets, which is a little bit of a smaller team. When I always thought he needed to get in shape, I was thinking more cardio shape and not losing so much weight. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah, he didn't need to get chiseled. He just needed to be able to not come off the court, to be able to not get as winded up going up and down the court.
And I went up, and I was there when they played Milwaukee this year, and I was just amazed. He was a big dude, and with his footwork, and he was able to always put himself in a great position on the court. And I just don't know how that's going to morph with his new body, as weird as it sounds, and only being 4 months. With the Nuggets, offense is great. It's always defense. That's always been the issue with them this year. They can't check it all. And what step is Michael Porter going to take? I love this kid. I actually put a Rookie of the Year future on him at it was like 30 or 40 to 1. And it's so frustrating because he looks like a superstar. He looks like the next superstar one game. And then the next game, he looks like a G Leaguer.
Yep.
I mean, there's no medium with that kid at all. And I think he could be great in this league. This is a contract year for Plumlee. And one of my big things when I do fantasy sports or anything is money motivates people more than anything. And when you're playing for your financial future, you tend to give a little bit more. And him, if Joker tested positive again or is not the same Joker, him playing for that financial stability in his life is huge for them. Craig was huge for them last year in the playoffs. He had a great series. He averaged over 10 points a game, held DeMarcus DeRozan down in the first round. What step is he going to take? I'm a huge Michigan State guy, and when I saw Gary Harris played, I always thought he was Chauncey Billups 2.0, a smaller guard that could make the open shot, make free throws, create, and play defense. And this year, I just haven't seen it from him. I haven't seen him take that step I was hoping for him to take. And if this team wants to do anything in the playoffs, Gary Harris has to be that reliable third scorer behind Joker and Murray that they can count on for that game where they need him to get 25 to 30 points once or twice in a series to lead them to victory.
I just don't trust them enough. I'm kind of with you. It's just, I like a lot of their pieces individually. I just don't know at the sum of the parts. Like you said, if Jokic isn't being completely Jokic, are they going to have enough? Are they going to? Is it Harris, Murray? Who are they going to have enough late in the series? It's kind of what happened last year. You know what you're going to get from Jokic pretty much night in, night out. But are they going to get enough from the supporting cast night in, night out? Because I don't think this team, as constructed, if the Lakers and Clippers are healthy, I don't think they would be able to go through both of them. Maybe they could beat one of them in a series, but having to beat the Clippers and then the Lakers, that seems like it would be a little too much for them.
In back-to-back series, no way.
Yep.
No way. They need the Lakers on top. I have something to happen up there. There's no way they could knock off both of them. But I really like what I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I like what they're building, though. I agree. The experience they got last year of being in the playoffs, they obviously like the coach Malone. They got that kid from Oregon that everyone has forgot about, Manute Bol's kid. Mm-hmm. They got Michael Porter. I mean, this is a team that's adding some very good young players, and the young player gets to sit out a year, see the NBA, and then come in the second year. I really like what they're doing. I just think, like you said, they just don't have everything lined up.
It's like one more closer, one more sort of alpha dog in the mix, like a wing type player. And maybe that is Porter, right? Maybe he's a year or two away from being that guy. Like you said, they have pieces in. It just doesn't feel like maybe they're all ready at the right time to go. Denver Nuggets, the current 3 seed in the West. The number 4 seed, the Utah Jazz, they are 41-23. They're 8.5 games back of the Lakers. But when you look at some of the teams around them, this is where things are going to be really interesting now, Eric, because the Lakers are the 1 seed. The Clippers are 5.5 games behind the Lakers. And then the Clippers are a game and a half ahead of the Denver Nuggets in the battle for the 2 and the 3. Then when we get from the 3 to the 7 seed, there's only 4 games that separate the Nuggets, the Jazz, the Thunder, the Rockets, and the Mavericks. So there are going to be 6 teams all battling to try to move up and down their seeding. You know, the Mavericks are only a game and a half behind OKC and Houston. They'd love to get into maybe a 5 or a 6 spot and avoid playing a team like the Clippers. OKC would, they have the opportunity to jump into maybe a 4 seed and maybe is something that you talked about, like we won't have a home court advantage, but there might be a few things that the team with home court advantage gets a little bit of a benefit from. Maybe it's an extra timeout or an extra foul for some of the players. They're experimenting and talking about some things. So this is going to be interesting now from this 3 through 7. We get to the 4 seed, and the Jazz, they have a big loss. They are going to be without Bogdanovich, who is just that nice extra scorer they needed. We know this team can play defense with Gobert. We know Mitchell is going to have some games where he lights it up. but they felt like that Bogdanovic might have been that extra piece because Conley has struggled throughout the year. Do they have enough to compete with some of the top teams in the West?
I'll be honest, at the beginning of the year, I did 3 futures. This is one of the future. I got them at 60-1.
I like them a lot. Me too.
But, I mean, I feel that this is the Western Conference Nets. I think they're just a train wreck waiting to happen. Losing Bogdanovic, that's 20 points and a 40% three-point shooter that you're losing. And you're going to be relying on Joe Ingles, Jordan Clarkson to take that up and pick that up kind of.
And Ingles has struggled this year.
Oh,
He's had good playoff series. He's had good years before. This year, he's really struggled.
And Conley, you hit it on the head. Conley's been bad this year just because he's just not used to playing without the ball. And he just can't, he's not used, because he had all those years in Memphis, he had the ball in his hands, and now he's not used to having the ball not in his hands. So him and Mitchell, like, I thought they would really gel. Mitchell would be able to lean on Conley.
It looked great on paper. Right? It looked on paper.
Awful.
It's like it's going to fit, and it just, for some reason, the hodgepodge does not mesh.
And then you factor in the Mitchell-Gobert relationship, and I don't know if you heard this quote. It was at the beginning of the year. Gobert said the ball was sticking too much. So obviously he was digging on Mitchell for not passing the ball enough. So Gobert is complaining about offensive touches. I personally feel he's gone from the defensive player of the year. I mean, you could kind of argue he's not even top 5 in the league in defense this year.
Yeah.
And I really feel he's complaining about not getting the ball in the offensive end enough, and that's really affected his defense. And I think it's kind of at the point in Utah they have to decide which way you want to go. Who do you want? And obviously in the NBA, you're going to take Mitchell just with the way the league is played this year. I just think I think they're going to tumble a lot because, I mean, like you said, they're only a game and a half up on the Thunder and Rockets. I could see them free falling.
Me too. I could see them absolutely being the 7 seed. Yeah. They could, no doubt about it, be, they're only 2.5 games ahead of the Mavericks. I could see them being a team. If you're the Clippers, you'd love to play a team like them. I think they would match up really well because what we've seen with Gobert too is you hit on it. He's big. He can play defense, but if he's not playing like the defensive player of the year, you can't even have him on the court a lot of times in a playoff series.
He has no value.
He doesn't have value. You can stretch him out if you've got a big that's versatile that can move out to the 3-point line. His value isn't even there because he's not defending the paint like you would want. So I'm very low on them in this return. I'm not really high on them at all. I think the Bogdanovic factor hurts. Their chemistry all year has hurt. And you talked about Mitchell and Gobert not liking each other. And then all of this coronavirus stuff, remember with Gobert at the beginning? I mean, remember what he was doing? He was rubbing his hands and coughing on the microphones, and he was making a big joke of it. And other players like Mitchell got this because of him. He doesn't have the best, the team. I don't know how much the team loves him right now. Just like you said, from him chirping at the beginning of the year to all of the things that have happened over the last few months, this doesn't feel like a team with great chemistry heading into a situation where I want teams with great chemistry in this bubble. This is going to be different than anything else.
And you're going to be around these guys more than normal. You know what I mean? Like, you go to the hotel, they're there. You go to the common areas, the ping pong areas, the food areas, they're there. You're going to be around your teammates more than you normally are. And I just really think, like you said, if the team isn't clicking and there's a million issues, this is a dumpster fire waiting to happen.
Yep. Let's get to the 5 seed. One of the teams that, just as a basketball fan in general, I've been the most impressed with this year, this Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, this was a team, I think a lot of us felt like they're going to tank. They're going to end up either cutting Chris Paul and getting rid of him. They've got all these draft picks for the future. They're probably going to trade Gallinari at some point too. And instead, they just shut up and played some basketball. And they've got a couple really solid NBA players. Chris Paul showed you that he can still lead a team, and he's got a little something left in here. I don't think they're as good as even, probably 4 or 5 different teams in the West from just a pure talent perspective. But when we talk about chemistry, teams that like each other, teams that have had good seasons, this is one of them. This is a team that feels to me the opposite of a Utah Jazz team. I like their chemistry. They've overachieved. They probably feel really good about where they are right now. They feel like they're kind of playing with house money. If this was an OKC Utah 4-5, I would absolutely love OKC in that situation.
Oh, me too. And this year, I mean, everyone thought, like you said, the Thunder are going to be awful this year. If Billy Donovan doesn't win Coach of the Year, I think it's a travesty. I mean, what he's done has been great this year. And it also speaks a lot to Chris Paul's leadership. He could have gone in there and he could have, sat at the end of the bench. Donovan's success he's having. His success he's having, Paul's the veteran that's getting it down to those younger guys and getting them to buy in. So it speaks a lot to Chris Paul, too. I'm hearing they're having daily Zoom meetings.
Yep.
And also, they're the third best team record-wise since Thanksgiving. So they're playing great basketball. They have had 42 games that have been within 5 points, within 5 to play. So obviously they're familiar with
they're close throughout,
games.
yeah.
Yep. And also they're getting Robertson back, their best defender, who's going to be healthy. Now, there's been times in the past where he said he's coming back, but there's always been a lapse. But if they can add their best defender and they can situationally play him because he is such a bad shooter and someone you can sag off of but sub in and out at the end of the games, I think that's going to be huge for them. CB3, Gilgeous Alexander, and Dennis Schroeder, they were third highest in net rating when on the court together. So those three are really gelling well. And I really feel that not having the opponents not having home court is just going to help them even more because you're going to be able to hear Donovan communicate while the game's going on and coaching in game from the sideline. So I really feel not having the crowd is really going to help them. I also, they have 4 guys they can count on for buckets too. There's no quote unquote star. I mean, they have Gallinari, Alexander, Paul, and Schroeder, and all those guys any one of those guys can get 30 on a night. So it's kind of like one of those older Piston teams that really didn't have that quote unquote star, but just had dudes that could get buckets.
Yep. I like them to win a series and match up with teams. Like they'll play teams tough. I'd love to see them somehow play a Clippers. Because for them or the Rockets, there are a lot of fun underlying stories there with, Paul George heading to that back and forth. Gallinari went from them. Shea went back and forth. Chris Paul back and forth. That would be a fun matchup. I like this team, man. They've overachieved, and I think they should be proud of themselves, and they have an opportunity to make a little noise and to really continue to build their future moving forward. They are tied, but they are in the 5 spot. The number 6 team is the Houston Rockets, 40-24. They're 9.5 games back of the 1 seed there, but they're right in the mix with all those teams in that 3 through 7 chunk in the West. They're a polarizing team. They can, when Westbrook is on and Harden is scoring, they can look as good as any team the way they can spread you out and the way they can play differently. But if Westbrook is missing threes and shooting threes, and if Harden's not got that little bounce in his step, this is a very, very beatable team. They're a matchup team, too, with how they can go small, but they can't really even go big. So I think a lot of it will come down to where they end up playing. Where do you stand with this Rockets team?
I actually like them a lot. If there's one guy I have confidence that's going to be in great shape, it's going to be Russell Westbrook. He's a workout fiend. And what's kind of been lost in the mix is actually what a great season he was having. His 3-point attempts decreased by 2 this year, and he's just being way more efficient. They were 7-1 in their last 8, and he was averaging 33, 7 boards, 6 assists, and shooting 55%. And he was just being more efficient just because there's so much space on the floor. He's able to drive and get in the lane and pull up or get to the rim. Ben McLemore has been great this year, shooting the ball, filling in. He's been playing a lot more because Eric Gordon's been hurt. Gordon is finally healthy, so they're adding another shooter into the mix. And I don't know if you saw that photo of Harden. Harden looks in shape.
Yep.
And the big knock on them has always been Harden's tired because of how much he's done in the year. I just feel that this team is a deadly team just because you can get hot in a series.
100%.
And if their numbers were better, I would be invested. I mean, they're only plus 665 to win the West and plus 1650 to win it all. If I just could get better numbers on them, I would totally be invested in this Rockets team. It's just I just can't get a number that's high enough that I want.
If things were to end exactly like they were right now, I might lean against them in the Denver series.
Oh, for sure.
I think they could absolutely match up really well with Denver. It would be hard for Denver to try to D up both Harden and Westbrook. It would put Jokic in a weird spot if they would try to go really small there, because you're going to get a situation where it's like PJ Tucker guarding you, and you're going to have to go out to the corner and try to defend him shooting that corner three. So for them, it's, real key matchup. I like where they are. If they drop to 7 and they have to play the Clippers can actually go pretty small. And that might not be the best matchup for them. So I think it depends. They've actually they've had some good back and forth with the Clippers, though. I would love to see that series because they have a lot of animosity between those two teams. But for me, I think they might be my third. They would be either my third or fourth team in the West. I like Houston, like you said.
I'm intrigued, but they do kind of have some depth. They have some depth issues, behind Rivers coming off the bench, and now they are getting Gorder back. But if a guy gets in foul trouble, the rails can fall off because you're going to be leaning on some guys that don't have that much experience.
So we move to the number 7 seed, a team that I'm super high on, the Dallas Mavericks. They're 40-27. They are right in that mix of the 7th seed. They're 11 games back, but they're a game and a half behind Houston, a game and a half behind the Thunder, 2.5 games behind the Jazz. They have an opportunity to move up, maybe even to the 4 seed, if things broke well for them. For them, it comes down to their big two also. Doncic, Porzingis. They started playing really, really well. Dallas was averaging 117.4 points per 100 possessions in the 307 minutes when those two were on the court together. So again, I think those two playing together, Doncic can carry you. He can get hot. He is a legitimate future MVP in this league. And that's when guys like, in situations like this, a tournament, a playoff setting, that's when a guy like Doncic will step up. I think they legitimately could beat any team in the West. I don't think they would. I would have a tough time picking them against either the Lakers or the Clippers, but I would love to see them make some noise against the Clippers, soften them up for the Lakers as a Laker fan, if that could be the case. They're right there. I after Lakers and Clippers, I have Houston and Dallas as my next tier in the West.
Dallas was my 4th future at the beginning of the year. I love this team, and Rick Carlisle is kind of like Erik Spoelstra. He doesn't get enough respect for how truly innovative and what a good coach he is. He is completely under the radar. So in a series, you're going to have an advantage because of him in these matchups. The main thing, and also, he kind of changed too. At the beginning of the year, all he talked about was Porzingis from the wing shooting threes and everything. But right before the lockdown, Porzingis started playing inside the free throw line more and forcing the big from the other team playing the 5 position to guard him. And that's when they started gelling more and playing better basketball in my eyes. Luka healthy, he's had ankle injury, wrist injuries. And you're right, he's going to be able to propel them to that next step. The main thing is Brunson, the kid from Villanova, is hurt, and he's not going to be playing. I heard Willie Stein is sitting out.
Yep.
So that lack of depth is what I'm afraid of. But they made the second most made 3-pointers during the year, only behind Houston. So you get Luka in space, and he's able to drive, dish, and you have a guy making a 3. That's going to be tough. And you're not, you know what I mean? They're a really tough team for me. And they have good shooters, Carlisle factor. You got Porzingis and Luka. This would be the one team I would not, like I said earlier, if I'm the Clippers, I do not want to play them.
No, they've got a good plus-minus too, which shows you that when they've been healthy, they beat teams up. There have only been a few teams this year that came in and kind of kicked the crap out of the Lakers, and Dallas was one of them. When Dallas played well at a game, the Lakers didn't play very well. They just beat up on the Lakers. And this team has a ceiling where things go well for them. I would not be surprised, like you said, if they made the Clippers work or beat the Clippers, but then it would be tough with the depth. That's a great point that you mentioned, especially with Cauley Stein and not having some of their maybe 6 through 10, 11 guys on the bench. If they're missing a couple of them, they wouldn't be able to win a 7-game series against the Lakers and then win a 7-game series against the Clippers, or back and forth after already having, probably had a tough series too. So they can beat anybody. I don't know if they have enough to go all the way to the finals, but they are capable of beating any team in as a 7 seed. That's a scary team when you see them lining up against you.
And that Brunson Porzingis pick and roll was great during the year, and they're like not having him. And one thing that Carlisle would do is he would have Luka on there, but he would just put Luka in a corner and then just run the pick and roll with those guys. So you know what I mean? You're forced to respect Luka. So I just think that Brunson, him not there, is just huge for them.
Okay. We now get to the section of teams from the 8 through 13 that are all going to be battling. We're the 1 through 7 teams, they're all in the playoffs. It's just going to be about, and really it's going to come down to the 3 through 7, who's going to be, situated where, who's going to be playing the Lakers, who's going to be playing the Clippers early, and where are they all going to fall. From 8 through 13 on the West, things could get really, really fun down there. We have the Memphis Grizzlies, who are the 8th seed. They're 32 and 33. Right behind them, 3.5 games behind Memphis, is the Portland Trailblazers, the New Orleans Pelicans, and the Sacramento Kings. They're all 3.5 games behind the Grizzlies. Right behind them, the Spurs are 4 games out of it, and then the Phoenix Suns, they are 6 games out of it. So there are 5 teams chasing the Grizzlies. Basically, we have 6 teams towards the bottom that are all going to be battling for one spot. And it starts with the Grizzlies, who Ja Morant has been excellent. Their young group has been a year, maybe 2 ahead of where their organization thought they would be. And now they're going to bring in someone like Justice Winslow, who gives them some versatility, someone who's a big guy that can handle the ball on the perimeter, can play a little defense, he can hit a 3. He just is another nice, talented piece. It's never bad to continue to stack young, talented pieces. Can this team hold the 8th seed?
I really feel if they go 2-1 in the first 3 games, because they go Spurs, Pels, and Jazz, it's locked up. The first 3 games is going to be the whole thing for them. If they go 1-2, it's wide open. So that first 3 games is huge. I love Morant. Word on the street is he's added 12 pounds of muscle. If that's true, I just, like I said in our first one we did the Eastern Conference, I just want to see the step that this kid has made. You touched on Justice Winslow. Justice Winslow, for me, is Iggy 2.0.
That's a good comparison.
Handle the ball, can hit a 3. He's great. And what's kind of been lost in the mix is how good of a season Justin Jackson is having. The kid from Michigan State. He's averaging 2.5 three-pointers a game, 39% from 3, and he's averaging 1.5 blocks. So, he's had a great year, and people forget he was taken out of a game, Michigan State against Syracuse, because he couldn't make a jump shot in the NCAA tournament that one year. Mm-hmm. So the steps that this kid has taken, I just really feel like since this is such a young team, if they can just get in the playoffs and get that experience,
it's huge for them.
Huge for them. Granted, they'd probably lose 4-1, 4-0 to the Lakers, but it would just be huge in the whole development for Jackson, Winslow, and Morant. And the Jerkins, the coach from them, that's another guy. This guy should be considered for Coach of the Year too. What he's done has been great.
Unbelievable. They had to deal with the Iguodala stuff all year long too, where he was sitting out, and that was not an easy thing for a young team, having to like a veteran guy that you probably looked up to and you were expecting to be sort of a mentor to you, and he's kind of just said F off, I'm not even going to play with you guys all year. And they didn't have any issues dealing with that. I like the fact that Ja kind of called him out a little bit too. He's fiery. He's a good young leader that I would love to have in my organization moving forward. So you're right. These first few games for them are going to be so pivotal because Memphis comes out with Portland, San Antonio, and New Orleans. three teams that are all right there in the mix with them. If they go 2-1, they're fine.
They haven't locked up. Yeah, they haven't locked up.
3-0, no doubt about it. 2-1, they're fine. 1-2 though, or 0-3, and then with the young team, do they start to press? Right? Does Ja try to start to do a little too much now? He's worried, and then he starts turning the ball over a little bit. He hears all the stuff about Zion, and it gets a little frustrating for him. So yeah, that's where it'll all come down to what happens for them these first few games. That's the Grizzlies. They're the 8th seed. Remember, a team needs to be within the 4 games. So if any of these teams are just within the 4 games, they'll have to play a 3-game, basically a best-of-3 series where Memphis would only have to win 1. Portland or New Orleans or Sacramento or San Antonio, the Suns, they'd have to beat Memphis twice in order to get into the playoff. Portland Trailblazers, no Ariza, but they're going to get Collins and Nurkic back, so they do have some extra bodies coming back. They're going to be healthier. Someone like Lillard, if he gets hot in a situation like this, he can absolutely carry you. They would be a scary 8-seed matchup for a team like the Lakers because Lillard is the type of guy who can score 40 or 50 and get on a streak like we've seen, and you can play well against him, and he can just beat you because he's that good. Where do you stand with this Portland team trying to make it in?
Like you said, if I'm the Lakers, this is the one team I don't want to face.
Yes.
And people forget this team made it to the Western Conference Finals this year, and injuries have just killed this team. Mm-hmm. And they're getting Collins and Nurkic back. Losing Ariza hurts, but that's going to allow Melo to move to the 3 instead of the 4, which he's normally been playing. And also they're not going to have Rodney Hood, which I feel is going to be a big loss that's kind of under the radar. And that's going to force Gary Trent Jr., who's had a really good season, to kind of step in that role and play. I like this team, but it's all dependent on the Grizz. If the Grizz go 2-1, it's over. You know what I mean? Like I feel like their mountain is just too much to overclimb. If they were within 2, I would love them. I mean, they are plus 360 to get into the 8th spot, and that's the one future number out of the West that I'm actually thinking about playing.
The current number 10 team, the New Orleans Pelicans. So this is the one team that everybody is high on, is jumping on. And good reason, right? Zion has been excellent in what we've seen, but they still got to come in as a young team in a difficult situation. They still have to fend off a couple of other teams that are all battling a little bit more experienced. So they're going to be talked a lot about, and the league would love Zion versus LeBron in round 1 and all the old Pelicans players versus the Lakers, the trade that had everything with them, Anthony Davis back. That would be fun. It'd be a great storyline. I don't know. I'm not as high on this Pelicans team right now getting there as I think others are.
Neither am I. And the big thing, and why I'm not, is I can't pronounce this guy's name. Bizlek, the coach, he's not going down there, and he's been basically their defensive coordinator because Gentry's been handling the offense. He's been handling the in-game defensive adjustments and everything, and he's not going to be in there. And through everything online, I can't figure out who's going to be handling that role, and that's a pretty big role, especially in playoff basketball or in important basketball games where you need to win, where games shrink. And I think that's going to be very bad for them because one of my betting things is I always bet the under of any Alvin Gentry coach team. I think Alvin Gentry is one of the worst coaches in the NBA. I think he's a good offensive coach, but overall, he's just not that good in my eyes. Zion's in shape. You and I talked about it last time. He looks great. I mean, he's allegedly getting to the gym at 6 and staying till 2 and then going to the weight room. Ingram, the only 2 people in the league that are shooting better than Ingram this year are Irving and Middleton.
And what do you think about Ingram? He's an interesting one because he's coming up on a contract year now. And Ingram, with he's had some physical issues too. He's someone that he hasn't always been a model of health. So now you're going to bring someone back into this bubble where he's got an opportunity in just 8 games to maybe make a little more money or maybe get hurt. Right?
Like,
it makes me nervous.
I know. And like you and I like have talked about it. I'll give you credit. You were high on this kid when I wasn't, and he's blossoming into what you said he was. I don't know if I'd do it if I was him, because
I don't know, man.
It's like such a big thing, you know, and he's been so good this year and he's proven his stripes. I don't know if I would do it.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
I don't either. I don't. And he wants to win. He's a good kid. I'm sure he wants to be there and help them. It makes me nervous seeing what we've seen, like you mentioned, Isaiah Thomas and DeMarcus Cousins and some of them. Is it worth it? Is there enough reward for your risk for someone like Brandon Ingram to go down there to maybe get into an 8th spot, to then have to play a Lakers team, and then after that have to play, and you have to go through the Lakers, and are you going to be able to do all of that? Is it worth it? I don't know. I don't.
And like I said, their earning peak years are just so small. And like if you tear an ACL or something, like you're not going to get that money.
You're never a max guy again, maybe. You have maybe,
look at Cousins.
Yeah. And he'll get, $4 or $5 million, small contracts here and there, but this is an opportunity for Brandon Ingram to set up his family and his kids and stuff for the rest of his life and for their lives. And it's tough. Yeah.
And I mean, I've seen him play. I saw him play in person, and when they played up in Milwaukee, and I was very impressed with his game, and I don't think I would. I mean, Ball has been playing good this year. Him and Harden, the only ones that average over 12, 7, and 6 a game. And the lineup of Holiday, Ball, Ingram, Williams, and Favors, they're plus 26 in net ratings, and they also put up good adjusted defensive numbers. So, I mean, I think this team is dangerous, but losing the defensive coordinator, I can't pronounce the guy's name, I'm sorry, Bizlecki, that's huge for them, and just relying on Gentry, I really think is going to hurt them. And like you said, like, if I'm Ingram, I'm seriously not playing.
Is it in the back of your head? Are you a little tentative here and there? Are you diving for a loose ball if there's an in-between play? Or what are you thinking about? Is that – I don't know. I'm just – the human element is something that you and I have talked a lot about too with this. Remember, these are guys that are families that have to deal with issues. They're not just basketball player. They are Brandon Ingram, who's had physical stuff, who could be setting himself up for years to come basketball player. It's Dwight Howard, who has the mother of his child just passed away, Dwight Howard, basketball player. You know, they've all got these little things to worry about. This next team, go ahead.
And this is generational money. You know what I mean? Like,
we're not talking about
Ingram's
him for 5 years.
Yeah, it's him, his kids, and probably his kids' kids. You know what I mean? Like, they're set for life. So, I mean, that's a big burden on, what is he, 20? He's young, like 21.
He was like the youngest player, one of the youngest players ever when he came in, because of the way his birthday is built. So he's a super young player too that you really want to invest in, because he still has more and more upside. The leaps that we've seen from him in a year, he makes another leap like that. He is right there on the top tier of players, and he can do it both ways too. He can handle the ball. He's improved his 3-point game. So yeah, I like him a lot, and I just hope things go well for him if he does end up playing and they play. I don't want to see anything go bad for a guy who could have a very, very bright future. I'm kind of high on this next team. Of the group of teams towards the bottom, I would maybe take a flyer on them sneaking in or making a run, the Sacramento Kings team. A lot of it has to do with their schedule. So I look at their schedule. They play San Antonio, the Spurs, a Spurs team that's going to be without LaMarcus Aldridge. They play an Orlando team who is one of the weaker teams in this bubble. So right off the bat, the Kings have 2 very, very winnable games. They play a Dallas team after that who is better than them, but not unbeatable. Then they have New Orleans, the Pelicans, who is a very winnable game for them and a team that is right there in the mix with them. After that, they play a Brooklyn team who we think might be the worst team in the bubble. They can barely field a team. And then the last game they play is against the Lakers team that will probably not be playing anyone. They might be able to win 5 or 6 games here just because of the way their schedule lays out. They got 2 games against the Pelicans, too. If they win those 2 or just split them, they're in okay shape. I think of the teams on the outside looking in, I don't think Sacramento could beat a Lakers or Clippers, but they had a couple of spurts this year where they started playing really good ball. They have pieces. Buddy Hield and Fox are the type of guys that can get hot, win a couple games, carry you a little bit. I don't mind this team as maybe taking a flyer on them to sneak into the 8th seed or at least to play them individually to win a couple games in the bubble.
To me, it's Walton needs to figure out the rotation.
Yes.
Bagley's finally healthy. And I mean,
he looks like a beast too. If you've seen any of the pictures of him out there,
he looks huge. He looks huge, but they really, when he played, it just wasn't clicking. You know what I mean? Like when he was on the court, it just wasn't clicking. They were playing better without him. And I just don't know, like, do you start him? Do you come off the bench? Do you, like, you know what I mean? Do you come off the bench and then start him? I just don't know how Walton's going to handle that. And when you're dealing with that and people's ego, like, oh, I've been starting, we've been winning, and, like, we're in this position, now he comes back and I'm relegated, how do people act to that?
And that's been a problem for Luke, too, with the Lakers stuff, too. He's a good – the players like him, and he's a fine – it seems like he's a pretty decent defensive coach and stuff, but he doesn't do a really good job with rotations. That was one of his things that he really struggled with the Lakers was – somebody would play well, and then we wouldn't see them. And then it was just not consistent with figuring out who was the best group of, 8 to cut your rotation into and who was the best 5 to close with. That's a great point that you mentioned. Can he grow with this young team and do enough for them to get them in there? I don't know. They're young. I just, from a value standpoint, I prefer them to the Pelicans. I prefer them maybe even to the Blazers, just trying to get in with the way their schedule looks. So this is maybe a team that I'll be playing some individual games once they're back in a few weeks. Sacramento, who is the 12 seed in the West, they're 27-36. They're 4 games out of the 8th seed, so that means they're a half game behind Portland, they're a half game behind Portland and New Orleans. They're actually the 11 seed. The Spurs are the 12 seed. So the Trailblazers are 9, Pelicans are 10. Sacramento Kings are 11. They're all 3.5 games behind the 8th seed. And then the number 12 seed, the Spurs, I think losing Aldridge is going to hurt them. They had some weird plus-minus numbers with DeRozan and Aldridge where it's like their bench is even better on the court sometimes than those two are. I don't know how good they are. Are they even that good of a team? Do they have enough talent to beat the 3 or 4 teams ahead of them?
I think this team could – I just crap the bed.
Yeah.
How much is DeRozan really motivated? Because there's stuff coming out. He wants out of his contract. He wants to leave. There's rumors going around that Pop is leaving to go to New Jersey, to go to Brooklyn now. I just don't know how good, you know what I mean? I don't know how much they want to be there. They're 26 in defensive efficiency on the road. For me, this is going to be a team I'm going to be looking to fade individually in games. I really think they just kind of go to a youth movement here and start playing a lot of their younger guys, which one of my friends, he lives in San Antonio, David, he in the market there, that's what they've been craving about, playing Derek White more, Kendall Johnson more, Lonnie Walker more, playing the younger guys more. I really think that they blew it with the Kawhi trade because they were caught up like the Red Wings in hockey were, which is keeping the playoff streak alive instead of looking bigger picture. I mean, why not just trade him to the Lakers? Take Ingram, take Ball, take those younger assets.
Or demand, if you're trading Kawhi,
you know what I mean?
How did you trade Kawhi and not get back a Siakam or an Anunoby or one of those younger wing pieces that you could see as someone maybe to build around in the future? They didn't. I mean, they did not. It was like you said. They were so worried about not wanting to trade with the Lakers. We don't want to help the Lakers get any better. They didn't worry about what was best for their own organization.
Yeah, they just. I think they blew it. Like I said, I'm a Michigan guy. The Red Wings blew it because they lived on the playoff streak, and I just think the Spurs got on that same mentality, playoff streak. And I mean, even in today's NBA, DeMarcus doesn't stretch the floor, so he's really like not relevant. I don't want to use the term relevant, but not like
he can't hit a three.
Not a modern day NBA
he doesn't
player
fit very well.
Stretch. So I mean, I don't know. I just really feel this is a weird time for the Spurs organization, and honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if Pop does retire and Duncan takes over because Duncan was coaching some games this year.
He was. And then what do they do with the assistant coach Becky Hammon, who might be in line for a head coaching job somewhere else down the line? Yeah, I'm not high on them at all in this restart. I just don't know why they care about trying really hard to sneak into an 8th seed when they've had a real struggling year. And then the bottom team, the Phoenix Suns, they're 6 games out of the 8th spot. They would really have to jump, 5 other teams just to be able to get into a situation where they would have to get a play-in series. I like a couple pieces on the Suns. I like some of the things they did early in the season with some of their veterans. They just don't seem to have enough. Where do you stand with Booker?
I love Booker, and I am still pissed to this day that the Pistons drafted Stanley Johnson over Booker. I am still pissed to this day. And I remember tweeting it out. It was probably the most assholest tweet I've ever sent in my life. And I was so pissed. Just because, Booker's from Grand Rapids, has the Michigan ties, wanted to be a Piston, and everything. And the thing about Booker that he got in contact with a season ticket holder for the Suns, and he went to their house to shoot baskets because they had a basketball court in their house. And to me, that speaks volumes about Booker as the basketball player. And that's the type of guy I want on my team and want to build around. And he's locked in. He's the future. Do I think he can be the main guy on the team? I don't know. I don't think so.
Maybe you're 1A. If you've got more a maybe someone who's a little bit more of a big or a wing who can play some defense too and doesn't need to handle the ball as much, you could have him be maybe like a Jimmy Butler, even someone somebody else where you feel like they might not be a 1, but the two of them together can get you there.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So,
I just don't feel he can carry a team. And I'm completely with you. I don't even know why they got invited.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for them, it's just a development. I want to see Bridges. Bridges had a little bit of a hitch in his shot, but they fixed it. And I want to see, did the hitch come back? Has he been working on it? Because it's such a 3-point league. Did he take the coaching and has been working on it, or do he revert back to his old habits? And is Kelly Oubre going to play? He's had a pretty good season, but yeah. I've read he's going to play, he's not going to play, he's going back and forth. I just think for them, this is just 6 games of development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. This is just let's see what some of the young guys can do. We don't really feel like we have a chance to win a title or even probably make it into the playoffs. So, overall Western Conference thoughts. The top teams, I'll be curious to see how much of LeBron, Davis, Kawhi, Paul George will even see. I think you want to get them on the court a little bit, get them back in shape, get a little chemistry, but you got to be very careful because you don't want one of these guys to get hurt in the 8 games before you even get a chance in the playoffs. And then, some of the teams below them, it feels like we're both sort of high on Dallas, and I like what Oklahoma City's done. And I think Houston is one of those weird matchups that could beat anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Western Conference is going to be way more exciting than the Eastern Conference for the first round because the Eastern Conference, losing those guys has been depleted. But, I mean, even if it's the Grizzlies, Lakers, I'm going to be intrigued to see Morant go up and try to accept the challenge of taking on that team.
Absolutely. He had a couple games where they play the Lakers really, really tough this year. What's nice when you see a team like a young team like that, you got nothing to lose, right? Yeah. When you go in and you're playing the Lakers, it's, hey, nobody's expecting this from us. There's not a lot of pressure on us. Let's just play some basketball, and maybe we can steal a game or a couple games from them.
And then was it last year, the Clippers played the Warriors?
Yeah,
I mean, that was an entertaining series. I thought. What was it? 4-2.
Yep.
I mean, that was good basketball.
You didn't feel like the Clippers were ever going to win that series. No, but they made Golden State work. They pushed them. They made sure that, hey, you're going to have to play good ball and not make mistakes to beat us. And that's the kind of thing that you need from a Memphis team to show in this situation. I think you hit it too. As a personal Laker fan, I'm terrified of the Blazers and a hot Damian Lillard sneaking in and getting on a little bit of a run, and then all of a sudden game 1, Lillard throws up 45 and he beats you, and now you're going, uh-oh.
And then you got Melo that can score, you got CJ that can score. I mean, they got guys that can They got three guys right there that are capable of putting up 30, or all three of them putting up 30.
And now with some of their bigs coming back, you have Whiteside, now you have Nurkic, you have Collins. All that does, they can't all be on the court at the same time. It just gives you options, right? It gives you movement, versatility. Maybe Whiteside has some foul trouble because he's trying to defend Anthony Davis, and now you can have another body. You can bring Nurkic in to use a few fouls on him and maybe stretch him out a little bit. So, yeah, much more intriguing, it feels like, in the West, because even the teams that are on the outside looking in the West, New Orleans, they're a fun team to watch and discuss. We've been talking about the Blazers. They're a fun team to watch and discuss. With Sacramento, they're young. I'm kind of high on them maybe having an opportunity to sneak in based on the way that their schedule is set up right here. So even the teams below the playoffs, they're a lot more interesting, versus only Washington on the East. So it felt like a tale of two conferences when we were discussing the two of them, because there's a lot more that can happen from top to bottom on the West side.
Oh, for sure. Let me ask you like a random question. Do you think, like this was brought up to somebody, they're talking about the lower teams. Do you think they're doing like having a second bubble here in Chicago? Do you think they're doing that in case one of the teams gets COVID, so they have another team ready just to ship down to Orlando?
Fill in to play some games if they have to, or something like that. That's a great question. We've seen in the MLS, which is a different situation because they're just playing in a tournament. But we've had two teams already pull out of the tournament in the bubble situation because they've had so many players test positive for the virus. That's a great question. I think because baseball is going to be able to have a ton of extra team players, taxi squad. They're going to have deeper rosters. They'll be able to bring players in and out if some test positive. Will basketball, what'll happen if, like you said, what happens if one team, if there's 5 or 6 guys on the team that test?
Exactly. Like, what's the next team? Atlanta? Do they ship Atlanta in their spot?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. It's a great question, and you're right. It might be one reason why they're having teams and players ready just in case. Hey, even if it's just to come in and fill a game, if this happens before the playoffs, maybe it's to fill in and play a game as sort of a scrimmage, or just to fill some TV rights, or the TV commitments, things like that. Who knows? That's a great question. And this is Erik, as someone who you bet on and you watch and play fantasy and all different games for all different sports. This next 6 weeks, 2 months from now, till, keep our fingers crossed, the start of football and college football, this is going to be unlike anything we've ever even imagined, dreamed of, comprehended, in a maybe positive, maybe negative way. We just don't know what the hell is going to go on.
Oh, I know there's so many question marks, but you just got to have your fingers crossed that, intelligent people are figuring it out, and they have contingencies in case something does happen.
Erik, buddy, this was awesome. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much again. So let the folks out there know, where can we follow you? Where can we catch your podcast? And give us social media, all that stuff.
At ETOF21 Sports on Twitter, Instagram. I have a website at ETOF21 Sports where I put out my fantasy rankings, and my podcast in all 3 of those platforms. There will be links for.
Awesome stuff. Erik, thank you so much, buddy. We'll be talking with you again in the next few weeks as everything gets back up into full swing. Folks, don't go anywhere. We have plenty more to discuss here on That's What G Said. We're just going to hear from one of our sponsors. Stay tuned. Thank you to Erik coming on Talking Sports with us, one of our go-tos when we have to discuss, break down, really analyze, go team by team. Be hearing from him much more on That's What G Said through the weeks. Let's talk about one of our sponsors, Thrive Fantasy, right now. Thrive Fantasy, a new DFS app for prop bets. You build your lineup around a list of prop bets. For each contest, you choose from the list of prop bets that they have, and each unique prop will have an over or an under point value assigned, and you will be rewarded that point value. Example, will Tom Brady throw for over or under 250 yards? Over will get you 100 points. Under will get you 80, something like that. That's how you build your lineup. That's how the points are accumulated. And they have contests where you can play, in big contests where you're playing against tens, hundreds, thousands of other people, or you can play in small groups, you can play in head-to-heads, you can play in the free roll contest that they have where you actually win back money, and this is a site that I've checked out myself. I play in the contest there all the time. Right now they have League of Legends stuff going on. They've got tons of golf PGA stuff they have, and when baseball gets back, when basketball gets back, when football gets back, they're going to have different sports, all sorts of different contests every day, as for as little as $1, $2, $5, all the way up to $50, $100, $500 to get involved in contests. Make sure to give them a look. Right now, you get a little free $10 bonus when you use the promo code GINO. So it helps me out. It helps you out. You get the $10 bonus. It makes me look good because you're using my promo code GINO. Make sure to deposit 10 and then you get a $10 bonus. And some of these contests are 20 to enter. So basically, you put in 10, I'll get you the 10 instant bonus right back. You'll get that $20 entry fee. You could take a shot on Thrive Fantasy. Let's start talking some horse racing now. Let's get you into Friday at Keeneland. And don't forget, stable duel contest at Keeneland. We'll go over that in just a little bit, how we're going to build your stable duel lineup. But first, let's go through the card handicapping-wise. And really, the major plays for me are going to start in race 3 and moving forward, because I don't really have the strongest outside of the box opinion in the first couple. So let's talk from the third on. This is a good race here. First level allowance race. Godzilla is a horse who from the rail, it's not going to be easy for a talented horse making his 3-year-old debut. He showed some ability at 2, and it's just, look who the horses who he was defeated by. Basin and Tis the Law, who have come back and run very well at the age of 3. I'm looking elsewhere in here. I'll take a little shot against Godzilla, who I think with this race under his belt, he'll be a lot better moving forward. He's down the line. He's probably going to be the best of this group, one of the better horses in this group. Give me Wild Poppet. Wild Poppet's going to be cutting back from 7 furlongs to 6.5. I like another slight cutback after going a mile and a 16th. Now 7 furlongs. Now you cut back. Look at who he hooked a couple starts back. Moretti. We saw Fra Moro came back and run a really good second at Keeneland. Moretti won a stakes following that, and then came back to finish second, well beaten second, but second against Graded Stakes Company behind Tacitus. I think Wild Poppet's in a really good spot. Enough speed to put himself in a good position, but he can actually pass horses. I think with Godzilla, he's got some speed, and they're going to be fresh, and they're going to have to go from the rail. Hidden Ruler's got some speed. They're going to be close up to it early. You don't think Hero's Reward should be too far out of it. Alfie Solomon's is going to be close. So there's a good amount of speed in here, and I think Wild Poppet will hopefully be sitting just off of it. Because the fact there's a lot of speed, it also should set up nicely for breaking news. There's a very good opportunity that even Wild Poppet gets caught up in that pace battle, and if he can't sit far enough, breaking news is going to come and mow them all down late. So 4-8 for me. The 7 I'll treat as a total wild card, trying the dirt for the first time, and maybe he can take back just a little bit off of a couple of the other speeds and sit. So I'll use those 3 in here, 4, 8, and 7. And I'll have them in that order in race number 3, any exotics that you end up playing there. In the 4th race, it's a maiden special weight, 5.5 furlongs on the turf course. Nothing too crazy for me here, just the 3 and the 11 to use in some of the multi-exotics. So let's move to race number 5. The one Thirst for Life is a horse I'll throw in some exotics. He perks up a little bit every now and then, and he's capable of running a really, really big effort on his best day. What I like is his last couple have been better, and he's shown a little more tactical speed in his last few. So saving ground from the rail in a race that just does not seem to have a ton of speed on paper. That's why my top selection is going to be the 4, Treasure Trove. Who's going to go with Treasure Trove early? I don't see who's going to be able to push this horse early on. He should have a length or 2 on the field. And I think we'll see how good he is if he's going to be able to wire a group like this. He hooked a tough group 2 starts back at Oaklawn, and that was off of a couple-month break. He ran into Endorsed and Bank It and Pirates Punch. That group is way, way tougher than this field here. That was a legitimate stakes caliber group. This is an allowance group. Treasure Trove, trying to wire this field, will use the 4 on top. The 7 Bourbon Resolution is rounding back into form, and what you can do when you look at him and his form overall, you can make legitimate excuses for some of the poor performances, right? He was in a little bit too tough in a couple starts. He went really long on the grass. You can make an excuse there. He has races that were sandwiched by layoffs. He runs into Vacoma, and then he comes back with a really nice second-place effort. That should set him up very well in this spot. If they go quick, he doesn't have to be way out of it either. He has enough tactical speed to he should be able to stay within striking range. So 4-7, the 5 Royal Mesa, I'm going to treat as a player here, getting back to the dirt, sitting closer. He's proven at Keeneland. Got a little bit of a race under his belt off the little bit of the break last time out. I misplaced my phrases there, but Royal Mesa fits. He fits. He just does. He's coming off of a couple races where, looking at figures, he just didn't run well because, he took a shot on the grass. And you can cross the Kentucky Cup Classic out. He seemed a little bit overmatched in there, and then he just backs up. Look at the races prior to that. If you're playing him off of that form, he would fit nicely in here. 4, 7, 5, 1. Those will be the horses I use in some of the exotics in race number 5. We'll bet the 4 Treasure Trove if we can get 5-1 or so on a horse who I'm expecting to be loose on the lead. Race number 6, the 8 horse is going to be the top selection for me, Candy Cornell. He doesn't love to win races, but he's always there, and I think the consistency in this field, drawn to the outside, that should really do a lot for him. There's a lot of question marks in this spot, and I don't really have as many question marks for a pretty consistent horse like Candy Cornell, who I think should sit. The 7 I'll treat as a wild card, Almithar, horse who can absolutely jump up with a big effort, but doesn't really string efforts together, at least recently. So maybe he can, chalk at a decent price. We'll use the 7 in some spots. And then the 1 Traveling Midas was well defeated last time out, but I should expect a better effort this time. He's got a little bit of speed from the inside. He's going to turn back. The key is the rail. I hate that rail draw with a horse like this who has the in-between speed, but I think he has enough speed to at least put himself in a good position. The problem is there's a couple horses right to his outside that also have speed. The 2, the 3, the 4, they seem like they could all be lining up in here. So I'm hoping Traveling Midas just sits right behind him, and then he could work out a great trip. I would obviously much prefer him more if he were drawn towards the outside. That's why it feels like Candy Cornell should sit a nice trip, and Almithar cutting back to a sprint distance is going to be coming from off the pace. So I'm looking for horses who are going to be off the pace, because there could very easily be a scenario where the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5 all get caught up in it. The 6 is going to be fresh also. And then maybe the 2 outside horses are the only ones that are able to sit and pass horses late, or the 2 of the outside horses, the 7 and the 8. The 9 Rubus is also on the outside. He is another who has a little bit of speed. And he's coming back to Keeneland. You can make cases for him as a longer price also. I just don't quite like him as much. So 7, 8, let's go 8, 7, 1, and then maybe flop the 9 in as a horse who has shown that he can sit and pass horses, especially at a 6 furlong distance. So this is one of those races that could get really chaotic. Although at 6 furlongs, there's much more of an opportunity that a horse can maybe outbreak the others and steal it. 6.5 or 7, you would really think it was going to fall apart. I still feel like with the tactical speed that the 8 Candy Cornell has, that's probably the one to beat. So in the Beaumont, the 7th race, Speech is going to scratch out of the Beaumont. Speech is going to be running on Saturday in the Ashland instead. That, to me, makes 4 Graces a real standout in here. I could only see myself using 2 different horses in this race. It would be the 3 and it would be the 6, but I think the 3 is just worthy of singling now. The only concern I have is Wicked Whisper is going to be fresh off the bench. She's really quick. Can 4 Graces just sit right behind her? If she can, she should get a great trip in here. It's going to be just a small field, and I like what we've seen from 4 Graces. I think she's a super talented filly now. She'll be really tough in here. That's who I'm using in the Beaumont. It's going to be a small field now. It's not going to be a race I'm going to try to spread out and use 3 or 4. I'm going to use Four Graces, and maybe on a backup ticket I use Turtle Tracks, because if Four Graces and Wicked Whisper go a little too quick early on, maybe Slam Dunk from the rail tries to go and tries to stay close, and they all get hooked up, then maybe Turtle Tracks can roll in late. I'd actually prefer Turtle Tracks over Sconson. Nothing wrong with what Sconson has done. If that is the way Four Graces gets beat, I would prefer Turtle Tracks coming from the clouds. So the 3 Four Graces with the 6 Turtle Tracks. In the 8th race, it is the Grade 1 Maker's Mark Mile. Raging Bull, obvious horse to beat in here. Tons of respect for him. Not a horse that I'm going to be trying to throw out of my pick 4s or pick 5s. So I think you want to use him. I will include the 6 Everfast in some tickets, who's going to be trying the turf for the first time. He has run really, really well in his 2 starts for the new barn, his 2 starts this year. Jack Sisterson has done a great job with him. So he's a wild card. I don't think he's probably not good enough to beat a group like this going a mile on the turf. But I'm going to use him here or there just in case he shocks the world, and for sure underneath. The 10 War of Will is going to be my top selection, though. With drawn to the outside, I think he's got to go and then sit. And the mile feels like it will be really perfect for him. I liked his comeback last time out. He was a little green. He was coming off for a while. He was fresh early. And now you're going to get back to Tyler, who knows him really, really well. They're going to take the blinkers off. I think War of Will, people may see that he's 0 for 5 and he hasn't won on the grass, but he's run well on the grass, and he's definitely capable of winning if he's sitting close and if they don't go too far, and if he doesn't get hooked and he doesn't have a tough trip from that outside post. So 10, 4, 8, 6. 10, 4, 6, and 8. Without parole, fits, he figures, he'll come running, and he just kind of had to wait a little bit before he was able to make his move last time out. That's what turf racing is. Who gets the best trip wins, and then we want to play the horses who don't get the best trip next time out, because they're going to be a little bit more value than the horses who just got the great trip and won. 10, 4, 6, 8 in the Maker's Mark. What a Friday card with a couple graded stakes there at Keeneland. Let's close things out in the 9th. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about this race just because I think it's pretty wide open, and I don't have the strongest opinion in the world. I would just recommend to use the 12 on your mark if you're playing a late pick 4 or a late pick 5. This horse is quick, and you just got a really, really quick work in the morning. You're dropping from maiden specials out down to the maiden claimers. This guy could break from the outside and might just be a little bit better than this group. There is other speed in here, but use the 12 just in case. If he breaks running, they may all be running for second, and he could be doing that at a price. 12, 6, 4, 5, 8, all variations I'll be using in some of the multi-exotics there. I'll probably play a pick 5, something like this at Keeneland, and starts in race number 5. 1, 4, 5, 7, so that would be Thirst for Life, Treasure Trove, Royal Mesa, Bourbon Resolution, and I'll probably come back and play another one where I single Treasure Trove right off the bat. Then I can use all the horses I like the rest of the way through. On this ticket, we'll be able to just single 4 Graces. So in race number 6, it would be 1, 7, 8, maybe even the 9 horse, so using 3 to 4 in there. In race number 7, we'll single 4 Graces, the 3. In race number 8, it would be 4, 6, 8, and 10 to use. And then in race number 9, it would be 4, 5, 6, 8, 12, something like that. If you want to play a pick 4, you can do so. It just starts in race number 6 instead of race number 5. And a really strong Friday card at Keeneland with a couple graded stakes races, and they have an awesome Saturday card that we're going to get to in just a little bit. First, we're going to get to some more Friday racing, but before we do, let's hear about one of our sponsors. OldSmokeClothing.com. Horse racing t-shirts, polos, hoodies, long sleeve shirts, zip-ups, hats. There's the Old Smoke Clubhouse, which is an exclusive membership that gives you t-shirts, horse racing themes gift, all sorts of package fillers, and it gives you 20% off all orders at OldSmokeClothing.com. It's a membership perk that you get when you join the Old Smoke Clubhouse. You can show the horse racing fan in you. They have customs there. You can find horse racing names, big races, catchphrases. It is a one-stop shop for all the horse racing swagger that you need. OldSmokeClothing.com, and make sure to use that promo code GINO. It'll get you free shipping on anything that you get in there. GINO, the promo code, get you free shipping. This is a really great thing for a gift for one of your friends or family members, a loved one, someone that you know is a big horse racing fan. Get him a new shirt, a jacket, a t-shirt, a hat. Tons of different options. OldSmokeClothing.com. Use that promo code GINO. More Friday racing. Let's head on over to Del Mar. It is opening day for Friday, July the 10th. Going to be a different Del Mar this year. Obviously, they're just going to be racing on the weekends, but we're getting a good couple of cards to kick things off. I really like the Friday and Saturday cards at Del Mar. Some strong opinions in a couple races, and that's what we want. Hopefully, we can get a little separation. Let's get to race number 1. I know. I said I have a strong opinion. I said I like the cards. And in race number 1 on opening day at Del Mar, what am I going to tell you to do? I'm going to tell you in the early pick 5 to press all. This is a really contentious race to get things started. It's a field of 8 in the pick 5, and it's a group of 16 claimers. It is not an easy way to start. So when we'll have stronger opinions a little bit, not far later into the sequence, let's just buy a race that it's a field of 8. It's not 12 or 14. Look at the field. Who's going to go favorite in here? There are 4 or 5 different horses that could end up going favored. You have a horse like El Huerfano who's taken a big drop down. He's not been in the greatest of form as of late. And then you have a slew of horses that are going to be between 3-1 and 5 or 6-1. Not an easy way to start the Del Mar meet. Let's just go all in the early pick 5 in race number 1. In race number 2, we'll use 3 horses in here, the 1, 3, and the 5. I think the 3 is the one to beat. I like the fact that she can sit off. She's got speed. She seems pretty versatile. To me, she's the horse to beat. The 1 is really interesting. I just wish she didn't have the rail draw. She is very, very consistent. She always shows up and gives you a good effort. She can show some speed. She can sit just off and press. I think today she'll be in that kind of pressing spot instead, but doing that from the rail, going 5 furlongs on the turf, is not going to be easy. She's set for her 3rd start of her form cycle. There's a lot of things that are pointing to her running a big race. I just don't like the draw as much. Horses can work out trips though, and she has the opportunity to do that with the speed she has. So I will use her in the pick 5. We'll use the 1 Seaside Dancer along with the 3. And the number 5 will be the other, Mean Sophia. I like that she's going to get off the rail. She's drawn the inside in 2 of her last 3 starts. She's now going to go 3rd off the very, very long layoff. She's going to get back to the turf. She was decent on the grass. It was a small field, but she ran okay. I like the fact that I know she can run on the grass. I'm not worried about the fact that it was a small field. She was 3rd in the field of 4. I'm hoping she gets the trip where she's just a length or 2 off. Maybe she's sitting 3rd or 4th if they're going quick early on. Let's hope Mean Sophia can also be in that striking range that I want for horses that are sprinting on the turf, where they can put themselves into the race. So 1, 3, and 5 in a contentious little 6-pack, going 5 furlongs on the turf in race number 2. Going to single in race number 3 with the 4. We have a couple Baffert horses in here. It's a maiden special weight going 6.5 furlongs. Garth was a horse who was very highly regarded early on. He's been disappointing. He's been 2nd in 3 of his 4 starts. He has not raced since December. I'm not worried about him getting ready or being fit. It's just 6.5 furlongs with other speed in the race off of the bench is not going to be easy. The other Baffert, Midnight Mystery, I think I like a little bit better. He also has speed. He is also going to be going 6.5 furlongs. He'll do this for the first time. Garth's at least gone 7, but he didn't do it very well that day. That was Del Mar Futurity. It wasn't the strongest Futurity in the world, but it was still against graded stakes company. So I'm going to lean to Charlito, who comes off of a good runner-up effort, going 6.5 last time out. So he got his prep race out of the way. It was behind another Baffert, Cezanne, who came out of that race to win. That's the very highly regarded Cezanne. In his 2 back start, he was behind Mo Forza and Never Easy. And then in his debut, Charlito was behind Wildman Jack and Truck Salesman. We're going to see Wildman Jack over the weekend running against Graded Stakes Company at Keeneland. He's a legitimate company in 3 starts. This is by far the softest field he's ever faced, and he's going to catch a great trip. Ray Ray's got really good speed. We know at least one of the Bafferts is going to go. And that should just set up so nicely for Charlito. I'm going to make the 4 Charlito my single in here. I really wouldn't be shocked if he ends up going off favored. But you just expect that the Bafferts take money because of, people are going to bet Baffert always. So the 2 and the 3 will get bet, but Charlito will be the horse that we single in the early pick 5 sequence. And if he's 5-2, we'd be very willing to bet him to win. In race number 4, let's go 3 deep in here. I'm going to use the 1, the 5, and the 7. Jungle Roar, some of these horses all come out at this same June the 12th race at Santa Anita in the 5th race, going a mile on the turf. Jungle Roar, I thought was fine that day. He has the right to improve. It was just his first start on the turf, and 2 horses that came rolling late. He kind of moved early into contention, and he didn't. It was better than it looks on paper. So the one I'm going to use is the price play in here. 7's going to be really tough. I won't be tossing Tropical Terror out of any exotics. He did come rolling late, and he just missed. So he's going to be one that'll be very difficult to leave out of exotics and leave off your tickets. The 5 Cali Caliente is the horse who I'm going to treat like a wild card. His debut, he's completely missed the break. He had no shot. Put a line right through it. Came back in his second start, and he was sprinting on the dirt, and he actually ran pretty well. He got into it early. He ended up tired and fading a little bit late, but I like the fact that he was able to keep up with horses sprinting, and now he's going to be going a mile on the turf. I think he'll be sitting really, really close in here, and I would not be shocked if he's on the lead. So the 5 I'm going to use on some tickets as a horse who could be swinging it out there up front, maybe sitting behind Hammering Lemon, who's also stretching out. I just think Cali Caliente will be close in a race that doesn't have a ton of speed. Look to the 5th race to close things out with 4 horses. I'm going to go 2, 6, 8, and 9. The 2 Polar Wind in career start number 2, I really like that victory. It was super impressive. Polar Wind, going to go now second off the short little break. He fits very, very nicely in this spot. The 6 horse, Dia de Pago. So I always love playing horses like this. Okay, obviously you look back and you see he faced some really nice horses. So he faced, multiple times. He was in graded stakes. He was behind Bolt de Oro, Runaway, then Axeman, Flagstaff, Midcourt. Really nice horses. All of his races are followed by layoffs. Go back to September of 2017, layoff. And then he comes back of April of 2018, layoff. Doesn't come back again until May of 2019, layoff. Back again on August of 2019, layoff. March of 2020, layoff a few months, comes back on June. He ran really, really well. Now he's got a race under his belt. He seems like he's found a spot that he fits. I think this is a good level for him. Not facing any monsters in here. I love when horses have not had opportunities to put races together and then they finally do. I think he's going to run a really, really big one here. That's the 6 Dia de Pago. Make sure to use him in your exotics. You want to have him on your ticket if you're closing that pick 5. The 8 row Namo, first off the claim for D'Amato. He's going to be tough. I'm not going to leave him off the ticket. I think the 9 as a bit of a price. So he wasn't awful last time out. He was kind of even. He's got a little bit of speed again, and he's stretching out. I don't think there's a ton of other pace in here. From the outside, he could be really close or sitting a very nice trip. I'm going to throw him in as a flyer at a big price, the 9. Show business. 2, 6, 8, 9. If you want to shorten up, if the ticket's a little too big for you, especially because we're going to go all in the first, then you don't have to use the 9. Who's the bomb in there? I would be okay with just 2, 6, and 8 there. But throw the 9 in some of your exotics, or maybe even at least under, if you can get a slice of this thing after hopefully showing some early speed. In race number 6, I'm gonna bet the 2 Super Game in here. I like this 2-year-old daughter of Super Saver. Corner always has a couple horses at Del Mar that seem to pop. This one is training really, really well. This is his bread and butter, getting horses early on in their career to show speed, to be quick, to be precocious. Always been excellent with this type. If you can get 3-1, let's make a win wager on Super Game. And you move to race number 7. It's where you start the late pick 4 sequence there. They're going to go a mile on the turf. I'm going to use 5, 6, and 8. The 5 Maxim Rate. This gal was really good early on. She won her debut and looked like she was going to be, very nice filly. She came right into Graded Stakes Company, beating a nose. She won a grade 3 in her 3rd career start. And then she's tailed off a little bit since. She's had some trouble. She's had a ride or two that weren't great. And she was sent to the bench a couple times for a few months. For whatever reason, she now seems like she's rounding back into form. I think getting out of Graded Stakes Company, she was freshened up a little bit. This is a really good spot for Maxim Rate to come rolling and mow them all down. I'm going to use the 5. I'm going to use the 6 Z drop. She just didn't get an opportunity last time. She was in a bad spot down inside, and then late she didn't show anything, but it was because she didn't have the chance to run when she had a lot of run. That was her first start since September, so she was going to be a little bit flat late. Use the 6 Z drop in some of your exotics. The 8 Strike at Dawn, coming out of the possibly perfect, turning back a little bit. I think you'll get more punch with her late. So let's go 5, 6, and 8 if you're playing that late pick 4 sequence. Race number 8, I'm looking at a couple horses in here. The 2 Dreams of Valor, who overall is just probably the most consistent in here. He has a little speed, but he's passed horses before, and there's nothing really to knock about his last 4 starts or so. He's a really solid contender in this spot. The 3 and the 4 will be the other 2. I mean, the 4 is the one to beat. Sash, I don't really need to sell you on this horse who has good speed and who's just been beaten at the level last couple times as your beaten favorite. And the 3, Silken Prince, is worth some inclusion in as maybe a middle tier price, just from the way this race could shape up. If they go a little bit too quick, if there is some other speed that pushes the 4, and if Sash isn't able to sneak away, turning back to 7 furlongs, if Sash doesn't really want to sit and gets caught up in it, I think Silken Prince, 7 furlongs is a great distance for a horse like Silken Prince to catch some other horses who are going to be caught in between showing a little bit of speed. So the 3, let's use in some of your exotics there too. 2, 3, 4 in race number 8. Race number 9 on your Friday opening day at Del Mar. Spread out a little bit in here. This is the ocean side. I'll be looking at using combinations of 6, 7, 8, and 11 KP all systems go. The 7 Hit the Road. If you want to shorten up, I think this is the horse to beat in here. I really do. This guy has a load of ability, and he showed it last time. I think sky's the limit. He could be a legitimate stakes horse, graded stakes type. Hit the road. If you want to single, you want to shorten up. The 2 horses that I would feel like I had to use in this race would be the 7 and the 8. Mainly because Tis a Magician is the kind that tries the grass for the first time, and maybe he just gets out front and gets loose. There's a couple others with speed, but he might be a little classier speed. So maybe he gets out front, maybe he's sitting really close. I don't want him to be a horse that could freak on the grass and not use him. So I would use 7 and 8 and everything. If you want to go deeper, the 6 would be the other one, the 11 would be the other one. Haywood's Beach. Didn't really love the ride that Haywood's Beach got last time out. I was expecting a little more of an aggressive ride, and I'm thinking they probably try to get a little more aggressive in this spot. So 6, 7, 8, and 11, I would make sure to use the 7 and 8, 6 and 11 if you want to go a little bit deeper. And we close things out. 1, 3, 4, 8, and 10. I'm solely throwing the 1 Tobacco Road in as a horse who I used to I used to have really high hopes for this one, and I just thought it was funny that he shows back up here in Southern California. I don't like that he draws the rail going 6.5 furlongs. I do like the turn back, and maybe he can just come running late. He's got some races that would beat this, no doubt about it. He just doesn't run. He just hasn't run well in a long, long time. But as a bust-out long shot, flop him in on some of your tickets if you can afford to do so. I want to use for sure 3, 4, 8, and 10. Unbridled Sky, the 4 already be good. Both of them are big prices. The 8 Dark Hedges, first off the claim from Mark Glatt, who has been excellent as of late. And the 10 Castle Gate, who's the speed, probably the one they'll all have to catch and beat. The 5 Julius, I don't love him. I don't absolutely hate him. So if you shorten up in race number 9 and you go a little shorter and you maybe use 7 and 8, you probably want to use Julius in the 10th as well. I don't mind leaving him off. He's one of those in-between horses on the drop. He could win, but I do like some others a little bit more. My ticket would be something like 5, 6, 8 with 2, 3, 4 with 7, 8 with, maybe we go 1, 3, 4, 5, 8, 10. And then something like 5, 6, 8 with 2, 3, 4 with 6, 7, 8, 11 with 3, 4, 8, 10. That's Del Mar Friday. Good luck on Friday. We're going to get to an interview with Andrew Champagne in just a moment. With Andrew, we discuss Pleasanton Friday and the late pick 4 sequence over at Pleasanton. Hope you enjoy our discussion on the Friday races over at Pleasanton. Before we get there, let's talk a little bit about one of the sponsors of That's What G Said. Sarah Candle Company. CERA candles.com is the website. Their goal was to create a candle 100% natural, clean burning, the highest quality that everyone can enjoy. They are all natural soy wax, free from the toxins that are found in a lot of the other leading candle brands. So if you know that some of your friends, family members love candles, turn them on to Sarah Candle Company. I promise you they will absolutely love the scents. They have 25 different choices. This is a small business. I know the people that created this company personally. They have the best ingredients, quality packaging, affordable pricing, longer burning. That's what happens when you get that all-natural soy wax. It burns longer and it holds your scent a little bit longer. They also have the lead-free wicks. These candles are better for you, and you're going to be doing a good service to a small business who wants to help you out and wants to make your candle a little bit nicer, a little bit healthier for you. Make sure to use the promo code GINO. It'll get you 10% off of your purchase. Promo code GINO. That gets you 10% off. That lets them know that you heard about Sarah Candles right here. It makes me look good. It gets you a little bonus with saving a few bucks there. SarahCandles.com. Promo code GINO. Friday starts the racing week up in Northern California at Pleasanton. So to join me to talk about the late pick 4 up at Pleasanton, good friend Andrew Champagne. You've heard him on That's What G Said many, many times. You've probably heard him on his podcast, Champagne and JD. You've seen his writing all over. You've seen him on social media. Andrew, my friend, talking some no-cal racing. Thanks for joining me.
No problem. Pleasanton is one of my favorite tracks, not just in California. It's one of my favorite tracks in the country. Saratoga's 1, Santa Anita's 2. Pleasanton's probably 3 for a lot of reasons. I love the people there. They're some of the hardest working people in racing, the people at the California Association of Racing Fairs, and they've done a terrific job putting things together for this Pleasanton meet on very short notice. I'm not going to go into the details with the CHRB. If you want to purse all of the meeting minutes, you can do that, and you have far more patience than I do. But the racing office has done a great job getting this meet underway. They've got a 7-race card on Friday, and we're going to take a look at the late pick 4, which starts in race number 4. There is some overlap as the early pick 4 goes 1 through 4. Again, 7-race card, first post 2:45 p.m. First post for the 4th race is 4:20 p.m., so mid-afternoon on the Friday there if you're taking a look, or if you're on the East Coast, a good way to start the weekend because I think this is a pretty good sequence.
Yeah, and the one dynamic that I really like, Andrew, about Pleasanton and about some of the Northern California fairs is with Golden Gate and the synthetic racetrack now. Up in Northern California, there are a lot of horses who only run on the synthetic and turf for long periods of a time throughout the year. And then when you get the transition back to the dirt, maybe these horses are not quite at the level where they could come down and compete with horses at Santa Anita on the dirt. So they have to wait for some of the Northern California meets. Maybe they go to Turf Paradise and then they come back up. So you get a really fun dynamic where some of these synthetic horses might not be quite as good on the dirt. Some of the horses who don't have good form recently because they've been running on the synthetic, they might jump back up. You're able to find prices. It's not been an overly chalky meet. I like that it just adds something else as a handicapper when you're looking into it going, okay, how is this horse going to transition back to the dirt now since they've been running on the synthetic or maybe on the grass for a while?
It's a really cool dynamic that you don't see on a lot of circuits elsewhere in the country. You see it in Kentucky to a degree when horses come from Turfway Park and go elsewhere. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. Presque Isle has synthetic as well. Sometimes you see Presque Isle to Parks or some of the Ohio tracks. But the Northern California fairs, most years, those are all dirt. You get Pleasanton, you get Santa Rosa, you get Sacramento, you get Fresno.
Ferndale, right?
Yep, Ferndale, one of the most fun tracks that I know Chris Griffin loves to call. It's a bull ring up there. They do the Humboldt County Marathon at 1 3/4 miles. That's about 9,000 laps. It's a pretty cool scene. Now, this year, it's going to be a little bit different. Pleasanton has absorbed Sacramento's dates, so they're going to be running for an extra couple of weeks. Golden Gate has taken over Santa Rosa's dates. Santa Rosa has canceled. They're not going to be running there. So Golden Gate is going to be running on the synthetic there. So it's going to be a little bit of a different dynamic this year. But as you mentioned, a lot of horses coming off of races run on synthetic surfaces or coming up from Southern California, maybe just a little bit too slow for some of the races at Santa Anita and Del Mar. They're coming up to Pleasanton, and there are guys who have strings in both places. Jeff Bondy has a couple of runners up in Northern California. Jonathan Wong, who won the Game League earlier this year at Santa Anita, a former guest on Champagne and JD, the podcast that I do. He's got strings in both places. There's a couple of barns that are like that, and it's always interesting to try to figure out trainer intent because you know there are options leaving Golden Gate Fields. Do you go to Pleasanton for the shorter trip? Do you go down to Southern California? Do you maybe go up to Grants Pass in Oregon or Emerald Downs? There's a lot of options going on. It's pretty fascinating stuff, and we see a sampling of that in a couple of races in the Friday Late Pick 4 sequence.
So in race number 4, we'll jump to $25,000 claimers. They're going to go 1 mile and 70 yards. And just talking to you a little bit before the pre-show, it feels like we have sort of the same approach in this first race in that I'm going to try to beat the favorite, the 3, Grazie, who's coming off of a couple of really nice races, a win on the grass, a win on the synthetic, a couple starts back. I mean, you have a string of 5 races in a row where this 9-year-old mare hasn't done a whole lot wrong, but she's never been on the dirt to me. And I don't know with her running style if a dirt track is going to be all that beneficial for her. She's much better when she can relax, sit back, and then make one late run. I don't know if she's going to get the best kind of a setup in here. So I'm going to go 3 deep. I'm going to use the 2, the 5, and the 6. I'm going to try to beat Grazie. I think Boonesboro Beauty, who just overall has some of the better dirt form, very consistent, and should be sitting a good trip. I do think the 5 might be the one to catch in here. That is Hal's Buddy. And the 6, to me, is a horse who I would even maybe be okay with singling on a different ticket, but I do have some question marks. I'm okay with making some excuses for her last couple. And that Phoenix that she comes out of on December 21st down at Turf Paradise. Horse who won that race came back recently and won up on the turf at Canterbury. Horse who was 3rd in that race came back to win. It's become a really productive race. That was a strong one. And the races winning at Turf Paradise right before that were really good. So for me, I'll go 2, 5, 6, but we're both not necessarily in love with the favorite right away.
No, and I respect number 3, Grazie, a lot. Fun horse to root for. That's really started to reach a new level ever since late last year. This is a horse that has won 4 of her last 7 starts with 2 seconds. The one clunker of an effort that she had was when she had a nightmare trip back in December at Golden Gate. And even then, she was beaten 2 lengths. So it's not like she ran terribly. This is a horse that always seems to fire. The question is, where's the pace in this race?
Yeah.
I think the pace is number 5, Hal's Buddy. But it's tough to be overly confident in Hal's Buddy because Hal's Buddy's been the lone speed in each of her last 2 starts, and both times Grazie's run her down. So how much confidence can you have in that runner? Northwest Factor, the 6 horse that you mentioned, yeah, there's a lot of back class, but something that I've noticed is Emerald Downs and Turf Paradise dirt form doesn't necessarily travel well to Pleasanton.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a much deeper surface at Pleasanton. There was a horse last weekend that ran 6 furlongs in 109 flat, and that's one of the fastest horses in Northern California. If you go sub 110 at Pleasanton, you're flying. This is a different kind of surface, and I also don't like that it seems like a panicky drop second off the layoff. Maybe owner David Israel isn't much for the breeding game, though, because for $25,000, if you're into the breeding aspect of things, you can get a filly by the factor out of a Mr. Greeley mare. That could be a legitimate broodmare prospect, especially given that she stakes placed a couple of times. So, cheap little plug there for the racing office. But there are some really good pedigrees in this race from a claiming standpoint. Tink's Twirl, for instance, by Twirling Candy out of a Sligo Bay mare. There's some really cool stuff. You've noticed, Gino, that I haven't told you who I like. And that's because I don't have a clue.
Al's bigger brother.
This is one of those things where the more I look, the more I'm like, okay, number 1 Pacific Strike has won 2 in a row. Wouldn't necessarily surprise me.
No.
Boonesboro Beauty has some early speed. Just missed against similar company earlier in the meet at Pleasanton. Wouldn't necessarily shock me. Grazzi's going to be the favorite. Has won 2 in a row. We talked about that one already. Tink's Twirl seems to run the same race every time out. Was second at this similar level 2-back last summer. And it's safe to assume something went wrong that day because the claim was voided and she didn't run again for almost a year. So she could absolutely win. Hal's Buddy might be the lone speed. Have to use her. Northwest Factor runs for the lowest claiming price this horse has ever run for. It's a 6-horse field.
Yep.
I can't throw any of them out. I know there's a lot of people out there that don't like handicappers using the all button. And in big field races, I absolutely get it. There's no standout here. If Grazzi doesn't win, I don't know who does, and I'm hoping it's a price. I'm hitting the all button here. I'm rooting for a long shot, and I'm going to take a stand later on in the sequence with my best bet of the sequence, who's a non-favorite that could be a separator single. So I'm just buying this race. I think that's the logical play to do here if you can narrow things down later on in the sequence.
Yeah, if it's a 6-horse field and you can just shorten up in 1 or 2 of the other races, that's fine. It's fine with doing it. It's all about ticket structure. It's hard when you're dealing with 12s and 11s and 10s and you start throwing alls in there. That's when it gets a little bit difficult. So let's move on from race number 4. And the key, I think, a key in an all, as you mentioned, you look at the horses who are probably going to be the biggest prices in here. You've got a sharp horse from the inside, and you got a horse who likes the dirt in the 2, who wasn't beat a whole lot in similar spots. So when you can make cases for the longest shots in the field, then it's nice to press all, especially if you got a stronger opinion a little later on. Race 5, $3,200 claimers, non-winners are 2. They're going to go a mile and a 16th in here. Who do you start with in this race, Andrew?
Well, it's tough to look past the favorite. That's number 4, Papa Do Run, who crossed the wire first here last summer, was disqualified from purse money. Honestly, I'm not quite sure what happened there. You'd have to look that up. But while the dirt record says 0 for 2, that's not entirely the case. Papa Do Run was second last time out at Golden Gate at this level, was 3-5 that day. That's not entirely, confidence building, but Papa Do Run certainly seems like the main speed in this race. Papa Do Run will go with Turnaround number 6 in your program, and Turnaround hasn't won in a long time. This is a horse that seems to always find ways to run second, third, and fourth. From a pick 4 standpoint, I don't like including those horses. I just think they're the horses you throw on the bottom end of exactas and tries, and if they beat you, they beat you. It's a numbers game. The long shot that I'm going to use, in addition to Papa Do Run, just on the off chance Turnaround decides to go on a suicide mission, maybe number 7, Tadeo, winds up going with those 2 as well. I'm going to throw in number 2, Classic Champ, because Classic Champ is a deep closer. Alvarado rides. He's 38% on the meet as of this recording. Classic Champ may have bounced a little bit last time when 4th at Golden Gate, and that wasn't a race that Papa Do Run exits as well, so he does have some ground to make up. But the faster they go early, the more Classic Champ figures to like it, and just on the off chance that the race completely falls apart, which it might do because these are not the highest quality horses. They're $3,200 claimers, and they're $3,200 claimers for a reason. Mm-hmm. I need to be covered in the event that they go 23 to the quarter, 46 and change to the half, and they wind up shortening stride, turning for home. That's why I'm throwing Classic Champ on my ticket. 8-1 on the morning line, and I think we might get that price because the horses on the outside half of the field are likely to take money. 4-2 for me in race number 5 at Pleasanton.
I'm in complete agreement with you on the 4, Papa Do Run, in that I think he's a favorite that I'm not going to be trying to beat. There's very many ways that this race shapes up where he clears the field. He's just better than this group, and he ends up winning. But, as he said, at the low level, with the opportunity that maybe a horse right next door or one of the horses, I think, turn around two stalls down, can push him a little bit early. I'm going to use a couple others in here. One of them, for the same reasons that you use, I'm using a different horse, the 5, Gimme Space. I'm thinking that if the race falls apart, maybe Gimme Space is the one, second off the short little break. If you notice with his running line last time out, he actually was your favorite, and he was sitting on the inside. He loomed right up into contention, and he got a big call. It looked like he was going to be a major player late, and then he just flattened out. And I'm thinking, maybe he's going to be a little tighter with that race under the belt. They weren't going that. It was just a tempo that was moderate tempo. And he loomed up flat. So I'm going to give him a shot. If they go quick, maybe he runs them down. The real wild card horse that I just wanted to mention a little bit. Talk about a horse who's got some funny running lines here. Tadeo on the outside, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So he debuts at Saratoga in September of 2019 behind Governor Morris, a much tougher horse, a legitimate graded stakes type horse. Then he goes to Churchill. He drops in for 50. He actually runs okay that day. And then he steps back up to a maiden special weight. In the maiden special weight on November the 2nd at Churchill, he runs into a horse named Bango and then another horse named Little Menace, 2 stakes winners in that race. Then he ends up dropping down. He's in the claiming ranks for a little bit. He breaks his maiden for a maiden 7,500 on the synthetic at Turfway. And then on his ascent back up, he runs into a horse named Dunf over at Oaklawn Park, who was an absolute monster for Diodoro for a few starts. And Dunf actually just went over and ran, I think he was 4th. He ran in the Cornhusker, the graded stakes over at Prairie Meadows. So for a horse who is in for 3,200 at Pleasanton to have faced Governor Morris, Bango, Little Menace, Dunf, he's had just an interesting career when you go through his races.
I completely agree, and I considered using Tadeo because the first time he ran 2 turns was back at Mahoning Valley in Allowance Company, and he won by 2 lengths. Ultimately, the more I looked at that race, the more I realized, those horses just weren't gaining on him late. And I don't want to say he lucked into it because the fractions were legitimate. They went 47 and 4 to the half, but ultimately, last horse I threw out on the ticket. I think it's sort of a panicky drop by connections that have tried a couple of different things. I like the fact that they tried turf with this horse 2-back because the theory goes if a horse likes synthetic, chances are they'll like turf. Was sort of one pace against Starter Allowance Company at Golden Gate Fields. They went pretty quick that day, 57 and 2 for 5 furlongs. That's a good clocking there. They dropped the horse in for 62.50, going 5.5 furlongs. And the horse loomed and looked very, very dangerous turning for home and just had nothing left. There's a chance that Tadeo wins this race by 3 lengths and makes me look like an idiot. There's also a chance Tadeo goes early and stops badly and is just on the downswing. But if Tadeo runs back to some of the races that we saw him run earlier this year and even in late 2019, he's absolutely got a shot. I just prefer others in this spot.
Yep. So I'll be 4, 5, and 7 in here. The 4 as the one to beat, 5 if they go a little too quick, and then Tadeo is just the wild card who total X factor. I mean, feels like a Ricky Bobby type horse is either, like you said, either going to win by 3 or just not show up at all. So Tadeo, a real wild card in this late sequence. Let's move to race number 6. We have 20,000 claimers, non-winners of 2 here, 6 furlongs sprinting. Andrew, where do you start in the 6th?
I start and finish with the same horse. I really like number 3 Cozy Kid at 9-2 on the morning line. One of my favorite angles is in play here, the toss 2 angle. This is how this works. Horse runs a clunker, goes away for a little while, comes back, winds up needing a race.
Absolutely. I love it. Both of them.
You can toss both of those races.
Legitimate excuses.
Look at the form that horse showed earlier on in her career. They had high hopes for this one as a 2-year-old. Her first start, She beats boys in open company at Golden Gate Fields by 8 3/4 lengths. Gino, you know this as well as anybody. Horses tend to bunch on synthetic surfaces. You don't see many routes. When you see a horse win by 8 3/4 lengths at Golden Gate
at 4.5 furlongs.
Yep, and earn a 70 buyer number, that's impressive. It was impressive enough for them to try the Everett Nevin next time out right here at Pleasanton. That's a race against boys for state breds. $100,000 race, and she got bet that day. She was less than 3-1, and she ran a credible fourth behind a horse named Lux Royal Flush, who I believe was a Doug O'Neill horse that ran in a couple of pretty big spots. So not exactly a race to really be ashamed about. They ran her at Del Mar, and that was a clunker, and there were logical reasons because we didn't see her again until March of 2019. She ran a couple of really good races at Golden Gate in 2019 and in early 2020. Two back, they stepped her way up in class to optional claiming company, and they sent her a mile. That's way too far. She is not a miler type. She went early, had absolutely nothing left late. They put her away for 2 months. They bring her back on turf at Golden Gate. Again, you would think, synthetic horse, try the turf. Well, she's not a turf horse either. Jamie Thomas is one of my favorite horsemen up here in Northern California. Does not have a big barn. 40 starts, 10 winners. That's a 25% clip. When Jamie Thomas gets a horse ready to run, chances are they're pretty well cranked up. I don't think this field is all that great for the level, and I think this race sets up for a horse that can rate off the pace a little bit. Just looking at this field, number 1, Papaya, will likely show some speed from the rail. Number 4, Full of Pepper, has some early speed. Number 5, Bounty of Gold, is going to come flying out of the gate there. If that's not the first name Chris Griffin calls out of the gate, I think something's wrong. Number 6, Macy Joe, is also going to go. And number 8, Lasting Light, has a little bit more speed than she showed last time out. So I think this race sets up for a stalking type that can rate off the pace a little bit and pick up the pieces. I know Cozy Kid can handle dirt. I know she can do so against decent quality horses. And I love the fact that David Lopez is riding. Lopez has been having a really good meet up here at Pleasanton. 9-2 on the morning line. I really hope we get that price. And in addition to being a single in my pick 4 ticket, I'll have some win money on this one. I'll be playing cold doubles with Papa Do Run from race number 5 in order to try to extract a little bit of value from that chalk. Number 3, Cozy Kid, is my best bet of the sequence. And I'm really excited to see this one run because, as you can probably tell by the tone of my voice, I like this horse a lot.
Yeah, good sell, man. Good sell on and a horse that's on my ticket. No doubt about it, too. I'm going to be 3 deep in here, and the 3 is on it for many of the reasons that you said. I don't even have to go into anything else. You definitely
nice. I earned my pay rate.
Cool. You did. The other 2 that I'll mention are the 2 to the outside. A lot of the reasons what you said, I think Carrie's success is going to sit a trip, and she's just really consistent overall. She just doesn't really show up with any bad races, especially right now. And you mentioned Jonathan Wong, so Carrie's success, I'm going to be using, and then I'm going to be using the 8, Lasting Light, who is a little sneaky in here. As you said, I think you can just toss that last effort. They tried the synthetic. They tried going long. The 2 races going long, and just not what this filly wants to do. 2 back sprinting on the turf, she actually came closing. So what I like is I've seen now from what she's done on the dirt at Emerald and what she's done at Golden Gate, I know that she has a little bit of speed. I also know that she can pass horses. She's drawn to the outside, which generally when horses are drawn to the outside, that'll give them some options. Maybe they can go, maybe they can stalk off a little bit. So I'm hoping that Lasting Light is maybe sitting, 3rd here, behind probably the 5 and the 6 who are going to be battling. As you mentioned, there is a good amount of speed in here. So I'll use 3 horses, the 3, the 7, and the 8. I'll be 3 by 3 by 3, and then I'll try to close things out with 2 as we move to race number 7. So I'll have a 50-cent pick 4. That'll be $27. Andrew, heading into the 7th race, the 2 that I'm going to try to close things out with are the 7 and the 8. I'm going to go to the 2 outside horses again in here to use on my ticket to try to close things out. I think Giant Mark is probably the quickest, probably the one that's going to get the advantage in here. And a lot of these horses who have speed that that sometimes stop, or even if they get a clear advantage on the synthetic and they stop, I like giving them an opportunity when they get back to the dirt. And last time Giant Mark was on the dirt last summer, he wired a field up at Santa Rosa in August. So if he's able to clear, he could be tough to run down towards the outside. I think Maximilian, who's going to go first start off the claim now for a really good claim barn. Maximilian had been facing better, and they dropped down, and it seems like the 5,000 level was a good spot. That seems like where this one fits. And so now you're going to go to the $4,000 level. So you're in a similar spot for a barn who's really excellent first off the claim. I'll try to close out this pick 4 using the 7 and the 8.
This is a really cool betting race to end the sequence. I do not envy the job of Chris Griffin, even on normal days, but trying to figure out which of these horses is going to go favored, it's a real puzzle, because this is actually, I thought, a pretty strong race for the $4,000 beaten claimer level. There are some nice horses in here and a number of horses that have done a lot of really good work. I'm going 5 deep. And I have to tell you, it was sort of reluctant to cut the 3 horses out that I didn't use. If I singled Papa Do Run in race number 5, which I thought about doing until I realized
the single all, maybe. Yeah.
The Kurt Hoover style ticket. Yeah, 2 singles, 2 alls. But my top selection is actually number 2, My Friend George. My Friend George, fun horse to root for, 12 wins and 50 lifetime starts, has made $134,000 the hard way. But this is a horse that loves the dirt. These connections have been waiting for the fair circuit because on fast dirt tracks over the course of his career, My Friend George, 3 for 9, 8 in the money finishes. Now, the question is My Friend George sort of past his peak? If you look at the running lines, he's run up against a lot of these horses in the past. Last time out, he ran 4th, beaten 2 lengths by Aztec Warrior, a horse that I had a tough time throwing out, but ultimately finally decided to do and will likely make me pay for that. But I think My Friend George will love this dirt track. In fact, I already know that he does. In 2 starts at Pleasanton, he's got to win in a second. So at a price, I like My Friend George. I am using the 2 outside horses that you mentioned as well. The other 2 that I'm throwing in are number 1, Cool Hunter, who showed some speed last time out against a better group at this route. I think early speed on the inside for D. Wayne Baker, an underrated barn, will make that an asset, and we'll get a run out of him at a little bit of a price. I am going to use number 4, Speed Saver, although I'm not sold on him from a value standpoint, simply because I just think he's better on turf and synthetic. But given some of the races that he ran last summer against better horses, I couldn't leave him off the ticket. I understand people that do. And in fact, if you subscribe to the other insert trainer here angle, Isidro Tamayo has number 4, Speed Saver. He also has number 8, Max in a Million, who was claimed last time out and runs back here second off the layoff. I actually like Max in a Million a little bit more. I think one of those trainees of Isidro Tamayo's is going to go off favored. Which one? I don't know, but I need to have them both on my ticket. 1, 2, 4, 7, and 8 for me. It's a $30 ticket, and I'm hoping we catch a price early, a price late, and that my single in race number 6, number 3, Cozy Kid, comes running late to pick up the pieces at a little bit of a number, and maybe this will pay a little bit. Pleasanton has had some really nice late pick 4 payouts of late. It's a smaller track. Maybe it's not necessarily something you're looking at with opening day at Del Mar on Friday. Take a look at this card. There's a lot of value here, even though the field sizes may not necessarily indicate that. I think there's a chance this sequence pays a pretty decent amount of money. And if Cozy Kid comes home, I'm going to be live to a really nice chunk of change.
I'm going to read my ticket, and then we'll have Andrew read his one more time before we get out of here. So starting in race number 4, it's a late pick 4 on Friday at Pleasanton, July the 10th. I'm going to go 2, 5, 6 with 4, 5, 7 with 3, 7, 8 with 7, 8 for a 50-cent base. It's a $27 ticket. Andrew, we're both in that same range. I think you said your ticket with the single is $30.
Yeah, it's $30, all in race number 4 with 2 and 4, with 3, with 1, 2, 4, 7, and 8. So once again, look at scratches for race number 4 especially. That might alter the cost of this ticket and bring it down a little bit. But I also advise you, I like Cozy Kid. I'll be playing that one straight to win as well as in doubles. There's a lot of ways on this wagering menu that you can try to squeeze some value out of some of these horses. I advise you to take a look and pay close attention. It's a fun circuit to handicap. Love Pleasanton. Love the people that are there. Looking forward to the Friday card.
Andrew Champagne, and give us your plugs one more time. Where can we follow you online on social media if we want to talk some racing and see what you've got?
Sure. Twitter is at Andrew Champagne. Website is andrewchampagne.com. A lot going on over the course of the next couple of weeks on Champagne and JD, my podcast on YouTube this week. JD Fox and I will take a look at the Saturday card at Keeneland. A lot of stakes races going on there. And it gets even better next week because Saratoga starts on Thursday. That's my bread and butter. I'm an upstate New York guy. You'll see my analysis in the pink sheet if you're up there. And I'll also have a whole lot of stuff up on andrewchampagne.com and on my Twitter. Really looking forward to it. It's tough to say that racing's getting back to normal. In a lot of ways, it's not. But seeing Saratoga come back, seeing Del Mar come back, seeing the folks at Pleasanton do what they can to put on the best cards that they can, it's reassuring. And hopefully we're going to see the light at the end of the tunnel soon. But if I can maybe get preachy here for a moment, if you want sports to come back, please wear a mask.
Thank you.
I'm not asking for a whole lot here. If you want sports to come back, do your part. You do you, I'll do me doesn't work in the face of a pandemic.
No.
Please wear a mask.
Doesn't hey, this world is supposed to be where we all have differences of opinion and stuff like that. That's fine for horse racing. That's fine for when we're talking about the Lakers against the Clippers. That's fine when we're talking about things that may not end in somebody dying, in somebody getting very ill. You are someone who knows you have been personally affected by this. I have a couple people that I know that have gotten sick, that have passed away. You have a family member that has. So again, we're not trying to be preachy, but we want the world to get back to normal just like everybody else does. And the way to do that is, hey, just be a little bit overcautious. Even if you have to be overly cautious, I'd rather be that than be on the other side where if you're wrong about what you're saying, what you're preaching, what you're thinking, it could cost somebody quite a bit. So, hey, man, I'm glad you mentioned that. And thank you again. Always one of my go-tos when we need anything, wrestling talk, racing at any places. Thanks a lot, buddy. Good luck this weekend. Tons of horse. I mean, we'll be at Pleasanton. We'll be at Belmont Park. We'll be at Del Mar with opening weekend. We'll be at Keeneland. I know there's stable duel contests all over the place that they've got going on. So there is just a ton. I think the next few weeks are real key too because we're going to get baseball. Well, hopefully we'll get baseball. We'll get basketball back.
Toes, and eyes
Fingers
crossed on all of that.
Racing's got to capitalize right now, and because we do, especially right now for the next few weeks with everybody watching.
Yeah, I mean, we're also allegedly going to be getting basketball back at some point soon. Gino, I got to tell you, looking at some of the tweets from inside that bubble at some of what the NBA players are eating, you really think LeBron James is getting that on his tray as part of his meal? I don't think so. I'm trying to be as cautiously optimistic about all this as possible because I want basketball back. I want baseball back. I sure as hell want football back. I've got a fantasy football title to defend. But it's saying that stuff is certainly going to be coming back, I can't do it.
Yeah,
I just can't do it. And nobody can.
It's hard to be there.
Plans. You can say you have plans. That's fine. But what
until
happens,
I see it, until I see it, I'm having a hard time believing it, especially someone like basketball who's had to move from, workouts where they were working out with one person, not even able to get the ball and rebound it and pass to, we're going to be 5-on-5 full court in just a few weeks. I don't know. We'll see. But I will say horse racing for an industry and a game that we love, a sport that we love, and I will be hard on it and you will be hard on it. We've recorded a couple hour show and you wrote an article where we went through a bunch of different ways to help save it. They have done a pretty good job over the last couple months with nothing else around to run a smooth ship. Most places they've done a really good job with the mask, with the social distancing, and let's hope we've been lucky that we've had horse racing throughout all of this to focus on and to play without anything else going.
Yeah, and it's a case where credit to the tracks that have adjusted, specifically the ones that have been running on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, understanding, hey, look, if we run on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays with the big boys, we're going to get creamed. Let's run at these times on these days, and let's see what we can do. And that's not just the thoroughbred world. Scioto Downs, the harness track, has been doing a lot of things to drive their handle up, and it's been working. If you're in horse racing marketing and you want to see how to build a brand for what is perceived as a smaller track, look at what Scioto's doing and take notes.
That's Pruitt, right?
Yep, Gabe Pruitt.
He does a great job.
Army.
He does a great job there. Love Gabe. So Andrew, buddy, thank you so much again. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk next week again with more wrestling.
If I don't win a stable duel contest, I hope you don't either.
You jackass. I love you.
Love you, buddy.
You have a good one, buddy. We'll talk soon. Don't go anywhere, folks. We have a ton more racing for Friday and Saturday to discuss. One of the sponsors of That's What G Said podcast is Cindy Carava, full-service realtor, and I am here over in Glendora at Coldwell Banker with Cindy Carava. Cindy, how was 2019 for you? Tell us a little bit about what kind of stuff you were working on.
Hi, Gino. Thanks for having me. 2019 was just really great. I had a great year selling homes all the way from Altadena, Arcadia, Monrovia, out to Upland and Ontario just recently. The market has been really good. We're looking forward to 2020 with an increase in home prices about 5.8% this year, opposed to last year where it was a little softer. We saw more like homes averaging about 3.5% in increase in value. It's also looking great for buyers. The interest rates right now are going to be staying under 4%. So if you've been on the fence about thinking about buying a home, now is the time to do so with interest rates still staying low.
And you offer more services than just the buying, selling, and leasing homes. Tell us about some of the other services that you offer and what a full-service realtor really is.
So you're right, Gino. Besides me being a full-service realtor of finding properties for my clients to buy or selling their homes or finding rentals for them, I also have a plethora of resources like handyman, contractors, electricians, plumbers. I even, if you're thinking about getting a home loan, I actually work with 2 great lenders that I can recommend to anybody.
And you're all over the internet, social media, websites. Let us know some of the places where we can find you. I know I've seen some reviews on Yelp and on Zillow. Everyone always has positive things to say. Everybody hears me raving about you all the time. But where can everyone else find out information about you or contact?
Thank you, Gino. Yeah, I am on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. And you can contact me on my website, which is www.cindycarava.com, or my email, which is cindyc.realtor@gmail.com, or feel free to call or text me on my cell phone, which is 626-394-6400.
Cindy is awesome. She's one of the kindest and most genuine people I've ever met. I promise you, you will enjoy every minute you interact with her. So thank you very much, Cindy. Appreciate all of your support from That's What G Said podcast.
Thank you, Gino. Have a great day, everyone.
Big thank you to Andrew for talking some Pleasanton with us. If you're a little confused, we discussed I recorded the old wrestling rewatch this week with Andrew. We talk about King of the Ring 1998, and we recorded that, and then we recorded the Pleasanton afterwards. So we talked a little bit about in both of those how we were going to talk wrestling and talk Pleasanton, but I'm actually going to, because the old wrestling rewatch isn't time sensitive, I'm going to play that on the show next week at the beginning. And this week I put the basketball preview on instead because maybe players get hurt, maybe something happens, players test positive, we have more news. That way I can update the basketball news next week and we can have that old wrestling rewatch. So if you want to follow along with our old wrestling rewatches, go watch WWF King of the Ring 1998. Andrew and I discussed that show for a while, and that'll be up on next week's show when it'll come out like Tuesday, middle of the day, Tuesday evening. Let's get to Stable Duel for Friday. So it's been a week now for Stable Duel. Things are going great. One thing that I love working with Stable Duel, so initially there was a deposit fee when you would make your deposit to load up your account. And a lot of people were complaining about the deposit fees. They reached out to Stable Duel, and you know what they've done? They heard the customers, and they removed it. So there's no more deposit fees with Stable Duel. Working with a company like that and just being able to see a company like that out in horse racing in general, it makes me so happy, because a lot of folks don't do that. They don't hear the feedback and they don't change things, and that's what is really great about Stable Duel. They're for the fans. They want to make sure everyone out there that's playing is having a good time, that is enjoying the game. So let's get into Friday. Here's what you get on Friday at Stable Duel. There are 3 different games that you can enter. For $5 entry fee, you can play Stable Duel at Laurel Park. And for a $10 entry fee or a $50 entry fee, you could play Stable Duel at Keeneland. So they're getting a little bit bigger entry fees now. We're going to see a $50 entry fee Friday. We're going to see a $100 entry fee on Saturday. And they're going to always generally have a smaller entry fee, either 5 or 10, for some of the smaller players. That way, some of the bigger players that want to get in and play against each other in the bigger pools can do so. And there's no difference in the $10 game versus the $50 game. It's the same thing. You're just playing in a pool of a different select group of players that is entered, whether they're entering for their 5, 10s, or 50s. So let's go to the Keeneland Friday game. Let's talk about how we're going to build our stable and some of the horses that I'm looking at on Friday at Keeneland. So in race number 1, a couple horses to me that jumped out. I'd be looking at the 4, My Man Flintstone at 8,500. I prefer Busy Channel at 7,500. I don't really love any of the other longer price horses in this race, so I would be okay with spending up a little bit in race number 1 there. In the second race, I like situations like this where you get an entry, you get 2 for 1 with Stand Tall and Rearrange. I would give a look to the entry in here. I'd also give a look to Fashion Mo if you want to go a little cheaper. Fashion Mo is 3,000 with that 8-1 morning line. So again, one thing we're trying to do here at Stable Duel when we're playing in these contests, we're trying to find horses that are going to get bet down. If a horse is 6, 8, 10-1 on the morning line, they're not going to cost you as much to be a part of your stable. If you can project in your head, if you think they're going to go off at 2, 3-1, much shorter prices than they are, those are the horses who you want because you're going to be getting value on them. They're going to go off at shorter prices than what they should have been in your salary cap. That's what you're looking for. Some sort of advantage like that. You want to look sometimes for shorter fields too. Situations like this. Shorter fields mean you have a better opportunity of hitting the board and picking up more points. I'm someone who likes to go one horse in each race if you have 10 races. My feeling is, even if you don't like the 5th, 6th, 7th race, you want to give yourself the opportunity for the maximum amount of points. And so that's why I'm always using one horse in each race, unless there are 8 or 9 races where you're forced to double up a little bit. So let's get to race number 3. Horses who I'd be looking at in here, I like Wild Poppet, who would be 3,000. I'd be giving a look to the 8, Breaking News. If you want to spend up a little bit more of the top tier horses, for me, it would be Breaking News at 7,200 or 7,500. I'd prefer Breaking News there over Gozilla at 9,200. And then Alfie Solomon's would be the other one at $6,000. So it would be 4, 8, and 7 for me in race number 3. In the 4th, I would only look at using 2 different horses in race number 4. I would prefer the 11 Golden Voice at 5,000, the first for Maker with Gaffleon aboard, and the other would be the expensive Guanaque at 9,200. In race number 5, I think we have a couple opportunities in here to maybe shorten up a little bit on our salary cap and not have to spend quite as much. In this 5th, the 4 Treasure Trove at 3,000 with a speed advantage in here, I like. Royal Mesa at 5,000, right about what your average should be. Thirst for Life at 3,000 down on the rail, I'd be fine with. Bourbon Resolution at 8,000 fits fine. If you have the money to spend in this race, go for it. I just felt like this was a race that had a couple other very appealing shorter prices. So I would definitely lean towards the 4, 5, and 1 over the 7 in this spot. Now remember, picking the winners here in Stable Duel is a little bit different than betting and going through a pick 4, pick 5 sequence, because there are some horses that you think are going to win, but they're just not worth using and spending up on, especially when you only need to be one of the top 5 to pick up some points here in Stable Duel. Race number 6, couple horses that I would look to. The 8, Candy Cornell, if you want to spend up, that would cost you 7,000. I'm okay with the 7, Almanthar, who I feel like should get a nice trip in here. The 9, if you don't want to spend anything, you only have to put up $500 for Rubus. The 1, Traveling Midas at 6,000. I would prefer the 3 outside horses in here, though, based on their prices. Four Graces would be the one for me in a short field like this with Speech being scratched and rerouted to Saturday. It feels like Four Graces, this is a really good spot to get some nice points. Should be sitting just behind Wicked Whisper and feel like this one's going to give you a great opportunity to hit the board at a short price in a short field. So this will be a horse I'm definitely fine with spending up on at 8,000 Four Graces. Race number 8 is the Maker's Mark Mile. I like War of Will at that 5,000 price. You'll get good speed. I think you'll get a good run for your money there. Raging Bull would cost you 9,200. That would, obviously I'm not going to talk you off using a very logical winner in here. At least with Parole, you get a little less. You only have to spend 8,500 there, so I'd probably lean to Without Parole over Raging Bull. And then if you're just looking for a shot in the dark, maybe Everfast would only cost you 500, but I would like War of Will at that $5,000 price in race number 8. And then to close things out in race number 9, you could look to the horse who I think from the outside is going to get you some good speed, and that's the number 12 On Your Mark, who only cost you $500. The 8 2x2 would only cost you $500, so a couple opportunities to maybe spend early and then not have to spend a whole lot late there. If you do want to spend late, I would go to the 6 back shot. The 4 Major Attraction, not much less there at $7,500. And then the 5 Die Deep at $6,000. So 4, 5, and 6 if you want to spend up a little more. If you don't have enough to spend and you just want to complete your lineup with something cheap at the end, maybe it's the 12 On Your Mark or the 8 2x2. That's your Friday stable duel Keeneland thoughts. And don't forget, you can also play over at Laurel Park for a $5 entry fee, $10 entry, or a $50 entry fee into the Keeneland Friday contest. Let's get to some Saturday racing. Big Saturday over at Keeneland. In race number 1, I'm going to use a few horses. The 1, Rogue Element. I just love some of the races that he's coming out of. Yeah, he's been well defeated in some of them, but he's took some tough foes. I think he's going to be right on the front end. Just give him an opportunity to show a little bit more in here. The 4, Civil Servant. Logical contender. The 8, Looking at Liberty, the 1 to beat. So 1, 4, and 8, nothing crazy, nothing outside the box in race number 1. Let's get to the second, where I like the 5, the first-time starter, Palazzi. The dam of this one was 4 for 11 with 4 seconds and a third. She was nice. She earned $243,000. She won her career debut. She was a multiple stakes winner. She was multiple graded stakes placed. She won on the dirt, on the synthetic, and on the turf. I think Palazzi is going to come out ready to rock and roll in here. I'm expecting a big effort from this guy first out of the box. We'll use the 5 Palazzi. We'll use the 9, who was really, really good in the debut, was a fine second. Any improvement at all there will make the 9 really tough. So it'll be 5 and 9 in race number 2 with some win money on Palazzi if we can get around 4-1. In race number 3, it'll be a spread out race a little bit here. The 1, Tipsy Gal, will be on some tickets. The 3, She Can't Sing. The 4, Remanded, training really well to put 2 starts together. She came from off of the pace, but she's got a little bit more speed than she showed in the debut. And last time out, I think she just needed the race. She got a little bit tired. She actually was coming out of a tough race. We're going to see Sconson facing Stakes Company. Miss T2 went over to face Stakes Company. We saw a compelling Smile come out of that race to win. So use the 4 as a price on some of your tickets. I'm going to use 4, 3, 9. The 12 Golden Curl, I hope Julian does what he did last time and put her right into the race and sit close from the outside. On the turn back, with that race under her belt, she could be very, very tough. Unfortunately, sometimes he likes to take horses back a little bit. I'm hoping, get aggressive and put Golden Curl right into the race. 4, 3, 9, 12, and 1, Tipsy Gal. That's who I'll be using in the third race there. Just too deep in the Appalachian for me. The 4, Alms, respect this filly quite a bit. She just had a tough trip from a tough post last time out. Won't have that kind of an issue in this small field. There's not a lot of speed in here. Alms isn't exactly slow, and I think she will be sitting closer and she'll probably be asked to do so. I'm expecting Evil Lynn, Sharp, the 1 to catch in here. I think she gets loose out front coming out of a productive race. 2 back, she faced a lot tougher at Oaklawn Park on the dirt. Perfect on the grass so far. Maker off the claim, stepping up. Many things to like about the 3. Evil Lynn. We'll make a win wager if we can get around 7-2. The 5th race is the Grade 1 Madison Guarana. No doubt the one to beat. Her return race was very good. She's a nice animal. I don't really have any knocks on her. The 9 I find a little interesting in here. Amy's Challenge. Yeah, I think with the jock upgrade today with Joel jumping aboard, he may just handle this mare a little bit better. Maybe he can get her to relax on the front end. What I mean by that is just get her to show the speed, but maybe be able to dole that speed out a little bit more. And if Mia Mischief turns back, maybe takes back a little bit, going 7 furlongs, trying to save a little something late, Amy's Challenge, I think, has an opportunity to sneak away. Let's go 9, Amy's Challenge, the 5, Guarana. If they go quick, Sally's Curlin. Completely respect this filly. She will come running, and she can mow them down late. 9, 5, 3, and then the 7, Mia Mischief. I don't love Mia Mischief, though, in this spot. I thought her last effort was a little disappointing in a race where, on paper, she was going to be really, really tough in there, and she was just a little flat. So, let's go 9, 5, 3, 7 with 9, 5, 3 in a lot of the exotics. So early pick 5 if you're playing on Saturday, go something like 1, 4, 8 with 5, 9 with 1, 3, 4, 9, 12 with 3, 4 with 3, 5, 9. Race number 6 begins a late pick 4, a pick 4 sequence. That's an all graded stakes pick 4, and then there's also a late pick 4 that you can play that starts in race number 7. So in the 6th race, I thought this was a really difficult race. The top tier of horses for me are the 7, 8, and 9. Bound for Nowhere looks like the one to beat. I think Fast Boat at anything over 5-1 is the one to bet with his versatility. Texas Wedge I feel similar about with Fast Boat. They just feel like they can put themselves in a good spot. They're consistent, and I think they can win from anywhere, and I'm hoping they're just sitting a couple lengths out of it. They always seem to put themselves in a good spot. The bomb of the 5, Just Might, he can compete with these horses on his best. Throw the 5, Just Might, on some of your tickets. He's 50-1 on the morning line. He beat Fast Boat just a couple starts back. And he was behind Well Abled, who's quick, and he had a little trouble in that start. This horse should not be a 50-1 shot in here. The 2, Wild Man Jack, he's tough to really knock. What has he done wrong? The 11, Tiger Blood, that kind of speed is very difficult to dismiss, and then you come into a good barn off the claim going on the grass. I mean, I'm using 7, 8, 9 on one ticket. Another ticket, it would be something like 2, 5, 7, 8, 9, 11. We move to race number 7. And we get the Ashland here, the Grade 1 Ashland, Venetian Harbor, 6-5 on the morning line, and she's the one to catch. Her most recent defeat came when Swiss Skydiver was able to sit off and pounce in the Fantasy. And Venetian Harbor will probably have to deal with Envuitant, who's not nearly as quick as Venetian Harbor is. Speech, who's more of a presser. And then I don't know what Tonalist Shape is going to do. But I kind of think she's the wild card in here. I feel like Tonalist Shape doesn't get a whole lot of respect. And she just keeps winning races. So I'm going to make sure to use the 5 on my tickets, Tonalist Shape. I prefer her to... Nothing wrong with Bonnie South. She could win, and Vuitton could win. To me, this comes down to Venetian Harbor, Tonalist Shape, and Speech. I like Speech the most. I just think she might again be caught chasing like she has in her last few. Can anyone really put the pressure on Venetian Harbor that would be needed to soften her up a little bit? I don't know. I see this race 6-5-2. I like Speech the most. Venetian Harbor, I can't dismiss. Tonalist Shape feels like a wild card. One that I think she's going to run a big race in here, and I would not be shocked if she's right there at the wire. Let's get you to race number 8. This is the Grade 1 Jenny Wiley, mile and a 16th on the turf course here, and we will have Rushing Fall, who is awesome. 5-year-old mare. She's 9 for 12. She made her first start of 2020 back on June the 3rd, and she was super impressive. She's got good speed. She can come from off the pace if she has to, but you expect her to be pretty close to it. She likes Keeneland. She's 4 for 5 here. This is not an easy spot, though. You can look up and down this field. I'm going to use the one Secret Message, who is 15 to 1 and the longest shot in the field on the morning line, or second longest shot in the field on the morning line. La Señora is 30. I can see a version of this race where Rushing Fall goes to the lead. Jolie Olympica is going to be going to the lead. Toinette, trying to sit close to them, ends up getting caught a little too much on the front end, and Juliet Foxtrot. Now all of a sudden, those 4 pretty nice horses could all be pretty close up, pressing each other, and a horse like Secret Message, who can drop way out of it, save ground from the rail, and come rolling late, I can see versions of this race that she wins it. I'm using her. To me, Toinette gets the best trip. I think the way I'm projecting this race is Toinette isn't as quick as the other ones I mentioned. Julie Olympica is probably the fastest. Rushing Fall maybe next, and then maybe Juliet Foxtrot behind them. Toinette should be stalking. She's actually beat Rushing Fall before in the Edgewood at Churchill a couple years back. She's won here at Keeneland. She's a top quality mare too. She's done very little wrong. We don't see her a whole lot in the big races, so we forget about a mare like Toinette. I think she's capable of competing. She's shown that she can beat Rushing Fall. She's competitive. I think she's capable of being competitive with the best out there. Toinette, we will use on top the 8. If she's around 7 to 2, I'll probably make a win wager. We'll use the 8, the 4, and the 1, the 3 of those in our late exotics here at Keeneland in race 8. Race number 9 is the Bluegrass. We're going to get the filly facing the boys. Swiss Skydiver. She's been excellent. She's won 3 races in a row, all 3 graded stakes. Now she's going to try to go a mile and an eighth for the first time. She's going to try against the boys for the first time. And she's going to deal with some other, quality, probably different kind of speed than she's seen before. I'm not using Swiss Skydiver in my late exotics. If she beats me, she beats me, and I'll be very happy that she won. I don't think Bason's getting a whole lot of respect here. And let's go through his career. Beaten a nose in his debut, comes back and wins in his second start, wins the Grade 1 Hopeful in career start number 3. Really nice 2-year-old season. Returns and makes his 3-year-old debut in March in the Rebel, behind Nadal, in the Slop. He actually ran really well that day. He was kind of in between horses. He took a shot. It was a good return to the races. I absolutely loved him on April the 11th in the Oaklawn Stakes. I thought he was the horse to beat in there. He broke really well from the inside. He was sitting in a great spot, and he just was not asked at all. I did not love the ride at all from Giroux on Basin that day. Got stuck, got shuffled, came on. It was just not a fan. He ran really well in the Arkansas Derby, chasing Charlatan all the way around the track. He held second that day. He was probably asked a little bit more than he wanted to, just to try to keep Charlatan within range, and that one, unfortunately, with that kind of a pace shape, was just able to cruise. I'm expecting that Swiss Skydiver isn't going to be able to get loose on the front end in here. And the thing is, she doesn't need the lead, right? She can sit off and pass horses if she has to. But the way I see this race unfolding, there's Chivalry, who's really quick from the inside. He's got legitimate speed. He was battling head-and-head with Ete Indian a couple different times, who's also really quick. Ete Indian's not in this race, but that's just a good measuring stick for Chivalry. Art Collector won on the front end last time out. Now, he came from off the pace sprinting 2 starts back, but I'd imagine Art Collector is going to be really close in here. I don't think Man in the Can's going to be too far out of it. Right there alone, things are not going to be easy for a Swiss skydiver. Throw Rushy into the mix, who will probably be more stalking, but Rushy's quick. Attachment rate isn't exactly slow. Now you start to see in a big field like this against the boys how things, I just don't want to take a short price. So I'm using 4 horses in here. To me, it's the next tier of horses after a Swiss skydiver. It's Art Collector, close to the lead, or coming off the pace like he showed 2 back, but I'm thinking closer to the front end. It's Basin, who's my top selection. It's the 10, Rushy, who should sit a great trip, was 3rd in the Sanity Derby last time out behind Honor AP and Authentic. And then Enforceable. He can run all day. He's got a race over the track here at Keeneland when he ran fine 3rd behind Maxfield and Governor Morris. You know what you're going to get from him. He's consistent. He'll drop back and come closing. Joel's a great fit for him. I just worry that he may be a little too far back and come running, but Joel storming home with him, he would be scary to leave off your tickets if he comes rolling late. And what's nice is he's going to be a very good price in here. 8, 10, 3, 12 for me in the Bluegrass. And then to close things out at Keeneland in race number 10, I would use the 9, Delta's Kingdom. Second off the long layoff for Delta's Kingdom, second start of 2020. The 3, Romantic Pursuit, no doubt the one to beat, just missed in a similar spot at Churchill back in June. I treat the 6 like a total wild card coming in from Peru. Mike Smith takes the call here. And then the 10, Speedy Solution. These connections have been really firing. This gal has a little bit of backclass to her, too. Speedy Solution I'll use. 9, 3, 6, and 10 to close things out at Keeneland. So if you're playing some of the Keeneland exotics, in the 6th race, I'm thinking about a pick 4. It'd be something like 7, 8, 9 with 2, 5, 6, with 1, 4, 8, with 3, 8, 10, 12. I don't like playing tickets like that where you're 3 by 3 by 3 by 4. But if you're playing tickets where in 1 or 2 of the races you're not using horses that you expect to be favored and you're using prices, I'm more okay with playing a ticket that way. It's obviously how you're playing the ticket. And then maybe you come back and you play a late pick 4 with 2, 5, 6 that starts in the 7th race with 1, 4, 8, with 3, 8, 10, 12, with 3, 6, 9, 10. And we talked to race by race, so if you need to shorten up, you know who we like and how we stack them up. Let's get over to Del Mar for Saturday, July the 11th, opening weekend, where the surf meets the surf down in old Del Mar. Sad not to be heading down there. One of my favorite places to head down and take in a day of racing. But we still got a really good card on Saturday after the good opening day Friday card. Let's get to race number 1 here. I'm just going to use 3, 4, 5 to kick off the early pick 5. I'll take a shot against the 2, Hydrogen. Mr. McLean sitting a nice trip coming off that Pleasanton win. The 4, Octopus, you're going to see Juan Leyva. That is a Sadler assistant. So this is the Sadler barn, basically, who is first start off the claim. And they claimed this one in November. And you look, they may have been thinking, okay, let's claim this guy. We'll put him away. We know he likes Del Mar. I don't know if you want to claim a horse necessarily and think about having him on the bench for this long. This is a good spot for him to come back. And these connections, Ronus Racing, Sadler, they've always done well when they claim horses out of the maiden ranks. So Octopus, very live in here. Foreign Protocol, logical, coming off that Pleasanton win last time out. Faced a little too tough 2 starts back. So 3, 4, 5 for me in race number 1 to kick off the pick 5. In race number 2, I like the 3, Sharp Warning, a little bit here. I think you're just getting a really big jock upgrade. We're going to see Hernandez coming down from Northern California, and he's going to be getting really live mounts at Del Mar. And I have high hopes for him. I think he's a really good rider. So let's use the 3 on the big jock upgrade. We'll use along with the 1, 2, and 6. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, and 6 in race number 2 at Del Mar. We move along to race number 3. What you get here is a maiden 20, where you have horses like the 2, Dakine, who's dropping in and was a horse they purchased for $180,000. You have Prince Ricky, who was a $100,000 purchase. You have Convex, who was a $155,000 purchase, now a first-time gelding. Trojan Magic was a $185,000 purchase. And then you have a horse like Pour on the Coal, who was a $50,000 purchase. This is more where he fits, where he belongs. He's going to be making his third start off the bench. He dropped in at the maiden claiming ranks last time out, and he proved this is where he fits. He takes the blinkers off now. Maybe he can relax just a little bit more. And you're going to get that nice cutback from a mile to 7 furlongs, where I could see a horse like the 2, I could see a horse like the 5, maybe getting a little short going 7 furlongs, even though Trojan Magic's cutting back from the mile. If he goes a little too quick early, a little quicker than he was used to going a mile, Pour on the Coal is going to get a great trip in here. I like the 6th. It just feels like a horse who was meant for a spot like this versus, some of these others who had much higher expectations. So I'll use the 4, I'll use the 2, but for me the 6, Pour on the Coal, is the horse to play if we can get anything around that 3-1. And we'll take a shot against Trojan Magic in a race that looks to have some other speed in here. So we'll use 2, 4, and 6, and hope that Trojan Magic gets softened up a little bit by Prince Ricky. One of my better plays of the day comes in race number 4 at Del Mar on Saturday, and I'll play one ticket where I end up singling the 3 horse in this spot, and that's Lemon Drop Teeny. This is a horse who's already been claimed for 50 twice. She's never run a bad race on the grass. She's going to go second start off of a 4-month break. She was tracking inside, but she was in a little bit tight in her most recent start. She was traveling well. She was waiting for room with nowhere to go. She got up to second in early stretch. She lost a 3-way photo late and ends up finishing 4th that day. She was probably second best, honestly, and now she's going to be a little fitter with that race under her belt. This is a great spot for Lemon Drop Teeny. If we can get around 7-2, we're going to make a win wager on the 3. I'm going to play one pick 5 early where I single the 3, and then we'll play another one where we use the 10 alongside. So I do think I Love You More from the outside with speed, flashed some speed last time out, should be sitting close on the drop back in with claimers. She's going to be tough in here. So it's 3-10 for me, but I love the 3 in this spot. In race number 5 to close out that early pick 5, it's 2-5-6, Hot Rod Charlie, Triple Shake, and Mandrew. The Mendez barn does really, really well with these 2-year-olds early on before they have to go too far. So the 5 is going to be very, very live. You get a first-time gelding who's actually got a race under his belt with the 6 Mandrew, and the 2 Hot Rod Charlie is supposed to be a nice one. I'm not as high on the Peter Millers in here. This is a wide open race. Anyone could win. I just prefer 2-5-6. On the pick 5 ticket, where I single the 3 Lemon Drop Teeny, I'm going to play all in this 5th race. So I'll play that ticket. It will be something like race 1, pick 5, 3-4-5 with 1-2-3-6 with 2-4-6 with 3 with all. And then I'll play another one, 3-4-5 with 1-2-3-6 with 2-4-6 with 3-10 with 2-5-6. We move along to race number 6 at Del Mar on Saturday. The One Distant Vista should really like this turn back. I don't love the rail, but I'm hoping they take back and then try to just take back, settle, and come running late. There is nobody that wants to pass horses in here. Scardo's going to be up on the lead. Capture the Seas coming out of races at Los Sal. Duplicity is really quick. Mystic Flight, I'm not sure what to expect, so I think you want to use Mystic Flight as a wild card. Maybe he can sit and pass, but in his races, if you go back and look at his races and watch some of the replays, you can find him on TVG or any place that you look for your international races. He's close up early. I don't know if he'll be close up early against this group, but he might be caught in between. Speedy Justice is just that, quick. Reedley wants to be close. Psycho Dar's not exactly slow. KP Indy wants to be right up on it. Party Town, Torsay. We're talking about a big field of horses that all want to be right there on the lead. I just hope the One Distant Vista does not get shuffled from the inside. He was on the inside, and he did get shuffled last time out. This will be different going 5 furlongs. It could be even worse, but just take back, and come running late, and you should be really motoring home and passing some passing some tired horses. So it's 1, and then after the 1, it's 4, 5, 6, and 11. Horses who I think are probably going to all be in the mix, but I just don't know how it's going to shape up with them. In race number 7, I'll be using 2 horses in here. These are 16 claimers, non-winners of 2 lifetime. I'm going to use the 4, Little Sydney. Little Sydney got squeezed out of a spot, and he was in a little bit tight. He moved down to the inside in his last start, and he was traveling really well, but he came right up onto the heels of Arrival. He had nowhere to go, and by the time he got a clear path, it was too late. Remember, these are 16 and lower-level claimers. They don't have multiple gears. If they want to go and they get stopped, a lot of times they're not going to be able to come on again. A horse like Little Sydney can sit close. He has tactical speed. He's going to be within a few lengths. The number 4, Little Sydney, is going to be on all of my tickets, along with the number 8, All I Can Say, who I think is the one to beat. Third start off the long layoff. He should have no excuses today trying to come and run them all down. In race number 8, so just 4-8 in race number 7. Race number 8 is the Wicker. I'll use 3 horses in here. There's a lot of speed, right? Kiwi's Dream, the 1 is really quick. The 4, Voodoo Song, is really quick. I'm expecting Bob and Jackie to be right on the front end. Bolo's not exactly slow, but why I'm going to use Bolo is because he can sit a little bit. I'm not sure if some of the other horses want to sit off. They feel like they just want to go. Big Score, I feel, is the one to beat. Drawn to the outside in a race that doesn't have a ton of speed. He only has 2 races since January of 2019. He could need a few. The 6 I like a lot in here. Bolo. The 7 is the one that I'm going to be betting if I can get anything around the morning line price, though. Soder. Soder was 6th early in his most recent start. He was 3 deep going into the turn. He was 3 deep and in between at the top of the lane. He ends up finishing 3rd. And he's run well at Del Mar. He's going to go 2nd off the bench. He's a horse who's been in against Graded Stakes Company. And let's put a line through some of them. He just finished 3rd at 70-1 against Grade 3 Company. But prior to that, back in November at Golden Gate, put a line through that race. Go back to the San Francisco, put a line through that race. He lost to Blitzkrieg in a couple of his Graded Stakes tries. Then look how good his form is. Really consistent then when you toss out a couple of the races that seemed like he was in just a little too tough. This is a good spot because these are 3-year-olds and up, and they are non-winners of a sweepstakes of $50,000 other than State Bred at a mile or over since September 1st. This is a great, great, great spot for him. He fits well. There's a lot of question marks about some of the others. They're not in the greatest of form. He is in nice form. This is a good race for Soder. Anything around 6-1 will make a win wager on Soder, the number 7. We move to race number 9 at Del Mar on Saturday. I'll go 2 deep in here. I'll be just using the 3 and the 5. Nothing really too crazy. Diva in charge. Very, very logical. The 5. Buyback. I like Buyback a little bit more in here. Returning to the dirt. Buyback has enough speed to be right in the mix. He can sit. He can pass. He's got some versatility. I think he's been really consistent throughout. I don't have any excuses for him in his races. He had in a bad way. He did have some trouble 2 starts back on at Golden Gate, and he still ran on well. 5-3. If you want to use another, it would be the 4, but I'm okay with just 3-5 in the 9th. In race number 10, I could single the 5 in here. Nurse Goodbody. This filly had some trouble in her debut, going 5.5 furlongs, and then she went to the bench for a few months. She came back on May the 24th, and she just had a brutal trip down on the inside. She was tucked in, she got backed up into, she got shuffled, she lost 2 lengths, she lost all of her momentum. She angles out, she comes around, she's flying late. It's just much too late. She had no shot with that kind of a trip. With a better trip, she wins, and I think she's going to be really, really tough in this spot. That's the 5, Nurse Goodbody. I would use a couple others on a different ticket. One ticket I would single the 5. Another I would go 1-5. The 1 Vegas Palm. So coming out of those 5.5 furlong races, I think she might go. There's no speed in here. That's the concern with the 5, Nurse Goodbody, if she has to come from way out of it. But she showed that she has a little more tactical speed when she's routing in that May 24 start. The 10, Bristol Bayou, I'd throw in, and the 12, Sweet Devil. The 2-back race on the grass was really good. Something similar to that would make her very, very tough in here. So 1, 5, 10, and 12 to close things out at Del Mar on Saturday. Some horses I like throughout the card. The 3rd race, the number 6. Don't forget about the 4th race, the number 3, Lemon Drop Teeny, probably the best bet of the day. 6th race, the number 1, Distant Vista. 7th race, the number 4, Little Sydney. And the 8th race, Souter, and maybe a single of Nurse Goodbody to close out some of your late exotics in race number 10. Good luck on Saturday at Del Mar. Let's head on over to Pleasanton and talk about some Saturday Pleasanton races. We're going to go through the late pick 5 at Pleasanton. Pleasanton pick 5 on Saturday starts in race number 4, so get those past performances out. Let's go Saturday, Pleasanton, July the 11th. I'm going to use 3 and 5 in here to get the pick 5 started. My Lucky Mark feels like the one to catch. He's going to be sitting in a really nice spot, proven on the dirt. My Lucky Mark. I think the 5 is Canada is the one to beat of the short price horses, the 4 and the 5. I prefer Canada because I think he's got a little more tactical speed, and I like what he's done on the dirt. I'm a little more worried that Skeleton Pass, just not as much speed, and maybe gets outrun a bit early on. In race number 5, second leg of the pick 5 sequence, I'll use 3 horses in here. The 3, the 4, and the 6. Typhoon Harry returning to the dirt. The 4, Hardy Chizell, who's probably the one to catch. I wired a field at 30-1 last time out. They went really slow up front, but there's not. He's no doubt one of the quicker horses in the field. He doesn't have to go that slow. I think the 6 is the wild card, Spider Rico. He also went pretty slow wiring a field last time out, but he's drawn well. He can stalk and pass some horses if he has to. It's 3, it's 4, it's 6 for me in race number 5. I do prefer the 3 in here, thinking that he may end up getting the better trip sitting behind if those other 2 end up going a little quick early on. Typhoon Harry. In race number 6, we'll just go 2 deep in here with the 3 and the 6. It's going to be Happy Road, taking the blinkers off for Drysdale. 2 sprints to a route, stretching out, getting to the dirt. I think the one to beat. I'll also be including with the 6 Mime, who has a little more speed in here, so I wouldn't be shocked to see Mime sitting a little closer. 3-6 in race number 6. Let's move to race number 7, start of your late daily double out there at Pleasanton on Saturday. I'll be 2 deep in this one with the 3 and the 4. I like Promote. Promote tried the grass last time out in what was a really tough spot. I think you could put a line right through that. They'll be trying the dirt for the first time, but with her running style, she should have every opportunity just sitting close, stalking all the way through, third off the short little break. I think Promote, off that trouble trip on the turf last time out against Tougher, really nice spot. And the 4, Reginella, who showed a little speed routing last time out, a couple starts back, sprinting is the race that I'm really looking at, because she can show a little bit of tactical speed, but she's got more punch. Look at the dirt form, too. You see at Emerald and at Hastings, so no problem with the dirt. Reginella, 3 and 4 we're using in our late pick 5 and in all exotics up there at Pleasanton. And hopefully we get to race number 8, and we are alive. Maiden, 5,000 maiden claimers, not the easiest group. You got a little speed from the rail. If a horse like No More Fireball is close, cutting back from a mile to 5.5, he could be tough to catch. The 3-horse Pac-12, I think, is the one to beat in here. This is just a much better spot for a first-time gelding, and he's going to run a lot better in this spot. Dave's Gift, he's more the one to beat, but Pac-12 is a horse with some upside who he's training well. this is the type of horse who I'd much prefer than a horse like Dave's Gift, who runs second and third all the time. But it's not like he hooks any monsters in this group. The 7 horse Bernie's Big Boy is another one who just on the drop alone seems like a player. So it's 1, 3, 4, and 7 in this pick 5 at Pleasanton in race number 4, 3-5 with 3-4-6 with 3-6 with 3-4 with 1, 3, 4, 7. That's Saturday up at Pleasanton. Let's get you closed out on this show. Let's talk a little Saturday Stable Duel. So what you get Saturday at Stable Duel, you have a $5 contest over at Delaware. You can get involved at Keeneland for $10, or you can get involved in the big $100 entry at Keeneland. So if you want to play with some of the bigger players, you can get involved for $100 or for $10. It's the same contest, same everything you're going to have to do. You're just playing in a pool with different players. So let's get to your Stable Duel lineups for Saturday. There are a couple horses in race number 1 who I would look to. It would be the 1, 4, or the 8. Reason why I prefer the 8 Rogue Element with 20 twice, you get the 2 for 1 action, especially if they both stay in this race and there's no scratches. Anytime you get an entry and you get the 2 for 1 action, it's always worth using in these Stable Duel contests because you only need one of your horses to hit the board. Whichever one finishes better, you're going to get those points. So I'll lean towards the 1. Other ones I would look at would be the 4 and the 8. You get 6,000 on Rogue Element and 20 twice versus the 7,000 on Silver Servant and the 8,000 on Looking at Liberty. In race number 2, I like the 5 Palazzi. So at 5,000, that's the one I would go to. The 9, if you want to spend up a little bit, would be the Ride of a Lifetime. But I'll go with the 5,000 with Palazzi here. In the 3rd, this race, I think you can look to a couple price horses to use and maybe not have to spend as much. Tipsy Gal to the inside would only cost you 5,000. She Can't Sing would be one I'm fine with taking a shot on at only 750. I mentioned Remanded when we went through the handicapping earlier on at only $250. That would really give you a lot of bullets later on to fire in your lineup. And the 9 Crown Jewel, if you want to spend up at 8,000. The 12 with that speed from the outside, I think Golden Curl should be able to hang around for a while. So the 12 will also be one. I would be fine with the 1, 3, 4, 9, or 12 in the 3rd at Keeneland in your Stable Duel lineups. Only 3,000 on Golden Curl to the outside. Evil Lynn, I love in race number 3 with the speed, the opportunity to go gate to wire. If you have to spend up, I would prefer Alms at 9,800 instead of Walk and Marrakesh. So it would be 3, then 4 for me in race 4. In the 5th race, I like Amy's Challenge with the speed to the outside, Joel jumping aboard. Guarana, if I'm going to spend up, 10,000 is a ton to take off of your salary cap, but it would be Guarana, who I prefer over Mia Mischief. Sally's Curlin will try to run them all down. So let's go 9, Amy's Challenge in race number 5. The 6th race, you can make strong cases for many in here. I mean, I talked about the 5 Just Might, who would cost you $0. Nothing. Using a 50-1 shot wouldn't even take anything off and would basically just give you a free swing if this horse hits the board. You're in great shape. The 2 Wildman Jack, if you want to spend up 8,500. The 7, I like at the price of 3,000. Fast Boat really seems like the best value in here. At 5,000, Texas Wedge is fine. Tiger Blood with that kind of speed at only 750. Race 7, I would prefer Speech over Venetian Harbor. I get 9,000 versus 9,800. But at 5,000, Tonalist Shape might be the best value in this field. In the 8th race, I'd be okay with Secret Message to try to come and run him down at only 500. I do like Toinette the most, though. At 6,000, she should be sitting in the best spot, chasing Rushing Fall, chasing Julie Olympica, maybe Juliet Foxtrot even, and Toinette stalks, pounces, 6,000 on Toinette. Basin, love Basin, and his price is only 3,000. I think that's a great price for Basin, who will hopefully try to sit behind Swiss Skydiver, Art Collector, Shiva Ree. Basin maybe sitting 4th behind them, and with his experience now, he should be set for a really, really nice effort. 10th race, the wild card, Corora at 6,000, I'm okay with. Delta's Kingdom at only 750, Speedy Solutions only 500. You want to spend up on Romantic Pursuit at 9,600, but I'd prefer Quora, the wild card, at 6,000. So on Saturday, Stable Duel. If you're having fun playing in these Stable Duel contests like many of us are, you can play on Saturday in a $5 entry at Delaware, or you can play for a $10 entry at Keeneland, or for a $100 entry at Keeneland. If you have any questions at all, just let me know. I've been playing in all these different contests. I'd love to help you out. Ton of fun. No deposit fees now. So tell your friends if they like fantasy sports, or if this is a game that you think they may be interested in, let them know. If you have any questions, just shoot me a message. That's going to do it for this episode of That's What G Said podcast. A big thank you to Erik for talking NBA with us. A big thank you to Andrew for talking some Pleasanton Friday with us. Thank you to all the sponsors, Sarah Candle, Stable Duel, the Pleasanton racing that we spoke about, Cindy Carava, Thrive Fantasy, Old Smoke. If you need anything in any of the fields, give them a look. Let them know Gino sent you. You got the promo code Gino on a couple of them. That'll help you save you a few bucks, or give you that bonus on Thrive Fantasy. Have a great weekend, folks. It's a big one in horse racing, and we're going to start getting really close now, with fingers crossed, to baseball and basketball on the way back. Joey Cleveland, close this thing out.